Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. President Donald Trump will sign more executive orders today. The White House has denied the news that it's about dismantling the Department of Education. France offers Ukraine nuclear protection, and Britain will share intelligence with Ukraine. Soon, the State Department will give its first media briefing under Trump's second term. President Trump says most goods from Mexico will be exempt from the new tariffs, but it's only temporary. This comes just days after the sweeping tariffs on Mexico and Canada went into effect. The House voted today to censure Representative Al Green for disrupting Trump's speech to a joint session of Congress. More on that. And severe weather is sweeping the U.S. today, with dry conditions increasing the risk of wildfires in some states, while the Midwest is dealing with record-setting blizzard conditions.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
President Donald Trump wants his new Education Secretary Linda McMahon put out of business. Now, Trump was reportedly set to sign an executive order to begin shuttering the department, but White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the reports fake news. McMahon told employees this week it was the department's final mission to eliminate bureaucratic bloat. If shut down, the agency's authority would be turned over to the states. Already, the Trump administration has started overhauling much of the department's work. Trump advisor Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency has cut dozens of contracts it dismissed as wasteful. Trump has also vowed to cut off federal money for schools and colleges that refuse to comply with his administration's agenda. Eliminating the department entirely would require an act of Congress. Canada will continue to be in a trade war with the U.S. for the foreseeable future. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that today while addressing reporters in Ottawa. Trudeau said Canada would continue to engage with senior Trump administration officials about those tariffs. He also reiterated that his goal was to get the tariffs removed. His remarks came one day after what he called a colorful call with President Donald Trump. Canada immediately imposed 25% tariffs on 30 billion Canadian dollars of U.S. imports. Trudeau said those measures would remain in place until the Trump administration ended its trade action. And President Donald Trump announced this morning a one-month delay for Mexico's tariffs. That's on all products covered by the USMCA free trade agreement. The president wrote this on Truth Social after speaking with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. This is a major step back from the administration's signature economic program. In an interview with CNBC, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick also said that tariffs could be suspended on all treaty-eligible products in Mexico and Canada, most of which were subject to a 25% tariff on Tuesday. Now, the tariffs will go into effect on April 2nd. This is unless the two countries make significant progress in cracking down on fentanyl entering the U.S. The House voted today to censure Representative Al Green for disrupting Trump's speech to a joint session of Congress. Green was kicked out of Trump's speech on Tuesday after standing and shouting. Green is a Democrat from Texas, and he has repeatedly called to impeach Trump. He faced the House censure resolution for yelling at the president, waving his black cane, and refusing to sit down during Trump's speech. Censure is a symbolic reprimand that carries no fines or other penalties. The resolution was approved 224 to 198, with 10 Democrats supporting the move. Green's message was drowned out by boos from Republicans. But he told reporters this week that he was saying that Trump had no electoral mandate to slash funding for Medicaid. The 20-year congressman was eventually escorted out by chamber staff to maintain the decorum and security of the floor. And President Trump is pushing Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to clean up homeless encampments in the city. Trump yesterday pointed to areas near the State Department and the White House. The president wrote on Truth Social that if the mayor is not able to do it, quote, "we will be forced to do it for her." Trump added, quote, "we want to be proud of our great capital again." Now, last month, Trump criticized the high rate of crime, graffiti, and homelessness in the nation's capital city. The president also suggested the federal government take over governing D.C. The district has had a limited form of self-governance under the control of Congress since 1973. Bowser has rejected the idea and said she believes the current system of governance is best. A major legal battle over foreign aid heads to federal court today. USAID contractors and grant recipients are arguing before Judge Amir Alito to try to restore nearly $2 billion in aid halted by President Trump. The funding would cover work already completed by the organizations. The hearing comes just a day after the Supreme Court upheld an order to release frozen funds. The case tests President Trump's power to control spending, which is a key issue as he moves to downsize the government. And a federal judge has declined to block the Trump administration from firing contractors working for the U.S. Agency for International Development. This decision today is the latest ruling against efforts by unions representing aid workers. The workers want to stop President Donald Trump's plans to dismantle USAID, which provides humanitarian assistance around the world. Last month, the judge cleared the way for the administration to terminate direct hires of the agency. He said today a union representing personal services contractors employed by USAID had not demonstrated any of its members would suffer, quote, imminent irreparable harm from the government's actions. A federal appeals court has ruled that President Trump can indeed remove Hampton Dellinger, head of the Office of Special Counsel. This ruling reversed a lower court's decision that had blocked him from being fired. His removal is significant as he had recently intervened to block thousands of federal worker terminations ordered by Trump. The Office of Special Counsel investigates whistleblower complaints, among other things. Federal law protects its leader from removal without cause. But the court stated that the government met the strict requirements for a stay pending appeal. The ruling allows Dellinger's termination to take effect while the case continues. The Trump administration is continuing its campaign to streamline the federal government. The target this time is the Department of Veterans Affairs. The planned reorganization includes cutting more than 80,000 jobs from the sprawling agency. VA Secretary Doug Collins explains the cuts.
President Trump has a mandate for generational change in Washington, and that's exactly what we're going to deliver at the VA. We're going to make the department work better for the veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors we are charged with serving. The days of kicking the can down the road and measuring VA's progress by how much money it spends and how many people it employs rather than how many veterans it helps are over. The money we're saving by eliminating non-mission critical and duplicative contracts is money we're going to redirect to veteran-facing healthcare, benefits, and services, resulting in massive improvements in customer service and convenience. Improving services to the veterans is exactly why the VA exists.
The VA's chief of staff says the aim is to cut enough employees to return to 2019 staffing levels of just under 400,000. White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly says the president refuses to accept the VA bureaucracy and bloat, saying that has hindered veterans' ability to receive timely and quality care. She added that the changes would, quote, ensure greater efficiency and transparency at the VA. In Congress, Democrats have decried the cuts at the VA and other agencies. And meanwhile, Republicans have so far watched with caution the Trump administration's planned changes at the agency. Layoffs have surged to levels not seen since the last two recessions now. Global outplacement firm Challenger, Gray & Christmas reports that job cuts jumped 245% in February, with over 170,000 layoffs. That's the highest for the month since the Great Recession 16 years ago. The federal government accounted for the bulk, cutting over 60,000 jobs across 17 agencies, and over 41,000% increase from last year. The cuts are linked to Trump's push to shrink government. The president has described the federal government as bloated and wasteful. Challenger cites DOGE-related cutbacks as the top reason, affecting over 63,000 workers, including federal employees and contractors. Washington, D.C. has been hit hardest, losing nearly 62,000 jobs this year, compared to just 60 back in 2024. The unemployment rate is forecast unchanged at 4%. And now the State Department is having a news briefing with Tammy Bruce. Let's tune into that.
And more prosperous. Under President Trump's administration, the State Department puts America first as well. Peace through strength is back, and our North Star is the pursuit of peace. As Secretary Rubio says, peace is not a noun, it is an action. And the Secretary has been taking action. It started on day one. Secretary Rubio got straight to work issuing common sense policies that returned the State Department to the basics of diplomacy, We are rewarding performance based on initiative, skill, and hard work, and we are ensuring every dollar we spend advances our national interests. During the Secretary's first international trip to Central America and the Caribbean, he reaffirmed our commitment to the region where we live. He emphasized the importance of this relationship, highlighting our shared challenges and our shared opportunities. Already, the Secretary has achieved concrete deliverables to combat transnational crime, advance the cause of enduring peace, and counter the malign influence of the Chinese Communist Party. At the United Nations, U.S. leadership led the Security Council, passing a historic resolution seeking to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Implementing President Trump's executive orders, the Secretary designated 8 cartels and other transnational organizations as terrorists. The Houthis have been designated as a foreign terrorist organization, and their members are facing sanctions. And the Iranian regime is again under maximum pressure. And further in line with the President's promise to keep America safe, Mohammed Sharifullah was detained in Pakistan for the tragic Abbey Gate terrorist attack that took the lives of 13 service members of our country. He has been extradited to the United States to face swift justice. The Secretary's highest priority is the safety and security of the American people. Earlier today, the Department hosted a ceremony to raise the hostage and wrongful detainee flag. The flag symbolizes the United States' commitment to Americans unjustly held overseas, and it will fly in front of the State Department through March 9th, which is the second U.S. hostage and wrongful detainee day. This administration has worked tirelessly to bring unjustly detained Americans home and to secure the release of all the hostages held by Hamas. And we will continue to do the critical work to accomplish this goal. During this historic joint event, the other night, President Trump made clear that the United States is advancing our national interests to ensure the 21st century is an American-led century. America is back. I'm honored to stand here before you and to deliver this information for the American people, which they deserve to hear from their State Department. As someone who has served over, well, a long time in media, I understand firsthand that a free press is vital to our democracy. I look forward to engaging on our U.S. foreign policy priorities for the benefit of the American people. And also just want to say a thank you to the civil service workers, the foreign service workers, the staff of this department. As someone who's been looking out from the outside into government and seeing always the problems, it has been a remarkable experience to work with these individuals in this department, but throughout the Department of State. It has been an experience for me that has changed my point of view on many different issues. And I want to thank all of them who made it possible for me to stand here today. This has been literally a team effort. It remains a team effort for people who love this country and serve her every day. And so, there's something I never thought I would say, except screaming at the screen at this gentleman sitting here. Just a remarkable illustration of how life changes and has surprises for us. Matt Lee from the Associated Press. I'm going to also ask you, when asking a question, we have a number of cameras in the back. People are watching through streaming at state.gov, our social media accounts as well, and a variety of different ways. Announce your name if you could and your outlet. That would be terrific. Matt Lee, I'll announce for you because you're so shy with the Associated Press. Sir, what can I tell you?
Well, first of all, thank you for your opening remarks there. And I would also say congratulations, because for those of us who were around back in the beginning of the first Trump administration, the first State Department briefing in 2017 was on March 7th. So you have beaten that by one day. I don't know if you're aware. No. You know, that's,
all right.
So anyway, so you got that. You have a record already.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, yes, thank you very much for your commitment to, speaking to us and being open and transparent. I just want to say before I begin, and I have a very brief question, but before we begin, that I think everybody in this room understands that elections have consequences. Everybody in this room understands that the President of the United States sets the agenda for foreign policy. And so the questions that you will get today and going forward are all aimed at trying to find out what that policy is, one, and then how the State Department is actually implementing it. So
Sure.
I hope in that, with that we can go forward. So the first thing, my question is about the AID, USAID. So on January 20th, the entire Function 150 account of the federal budget, which is all of the State Department and USAID, including operations, salaries, was roughly about 1% of the budget. What's your understanding of where that percentage is today?
Well, what I can tell you is President Trump was elected to change the status quo. Part of what has initiated this dynamic that we've all watched play out is what's it been? I think it's been 6 weeks, is an effort to deal with waste, fraud, and abuse. This began with a simple inquiry of USAID to look at their books, to look and inquire, and they refused. They said, we're an autonomous organization, you have no right to come in. The intention was not to do it in a manner that you've been watching unfold. It began because there was no cooperation at the beginning. And the inquiry, of course, was because of the debt, the nature of being $2 trillion, that it was an unsustainable and remains an unsustainable way of running anything, a household or a government. There's a point where you have to look up and say, we need to see at least what's happening. So this has been a pause, a 90-day pause, we shouldn't forget that, to look at the nature of how the taxpayer money has been spent and if it was being used in the proper way for the things that we've allotted it for. And that began. It was certainly in a manner that was not planned on, but we needed to do it. It was something that was, of course, important to accomplish the nature of dealing with, is there fraud, is there abuse, is there waste, how can we fix the system so that taxpayer dollars are being used properly? And in the process, of course, we've looked through some of these issues. You heard at the joint session of Congress addressed by the president, some of the remarkable programs that we were paying for around the world, millions of dollars. Clearly, change has had to be made. And that's what we're doing right now. There's change not only when it comes to what's being funded, but also how the bureaucracy works, and if a bureaucracy the size that it was needed to exist in the way that it exists. All of this review is important. At the same time, within a review like this, because you're looking at whether or not there's an efficiency in the way money is spent, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be doing foreign aid. It's a matter of how are we going to be doing the aid, and if it is effective, and if it is efficient, and if it achieves the goals that we want that make America safe, more prosperous, more secure, and there's nothing that's deviated from that. On the issue of the numbers, you asked about numbers. Clearly, this is a rapid dynamic. This is a process that is an internal process that involves an entire host of decisions that are being made over a number of different bureaus and dynamics that I'm not a part of. We see what the results are. We have been getting the notifications about the nature of the numbers involved, but I can't go into specifics on this day or how they might even be tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
The reason that I pushed on the percentage number was because one of the first fact sheets that this department put out, and I know that you probably didn't have much of anything to do with it, but it was about.
Don't underestimate me. Not yet.
Well, it was on January 29th, and it was about the executive order on.
Sure.
And it said in there, even setting aside generous support for Ukraine over the past several years, the U.S. is spending roughly $70 billion in foreign aid annually. Well, that was just not correct. And several hours later, after myself and other people pointed this out,
yes,
it was changed, but it wasn't sent out again. It was just changed online. But it was changed to $40 billion instead of 70.
Right.
And I just want to know, so the people who put this together, and I don't know who they were, but that's a $30 billion mistake. Is that the kind of accounting that?
No, it's not. And I think, and can speak on behalf certainly of my department and of this entire department and the speed with which some of these things are happening, that mistakes are corrected. There was one.
Okay.
It was corrected, and that's certainly not going to happen again. That's what I can pledge to you. I do know, and as everyone learned on that day, that the data matters, which is why I'm not going to stand here and guess, that the facts of the matter matter. And we're determined, I am determined in this role, this is not just a first day for me, but also for the department to see the nature as a reminder of what you're all interested in and what we have to speak to. And I appreciate that. But yeah, it's everything's a learning curve.
Yes.
But at that point, of course, that's a significant difference. And let's just say it's not going to happen again.
Thank
you, sir. Yes, Rich.
Hi, Tammy.
Fox News. We all know that, right?
Here, you have to introduce yourself.
Rich Edson with Fox
That's
News.
right.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy, on this USAID investigation, Peter Morocco has been on Capitol Hill over the past couple of days, briefing members of Congress and updating them on this, where he told them that they have uncovered waste, fraud, and abuse to a level that would require referrals to the Department of Justice for investigation. Can you provide any specific examples of illegal wrongdoing or what the department believes is illegal wrongdoing at USAID?
Well, obviously, and this is my first chance to say of what I can't comment on, which is, in general, certainly any possible litigation, the nature of negotiations or contemplations regarding action that the government might take, certainly not only because I've not been in the room, but it's because you've got, whether it's diplomatic conversations or issues of determining what we might do and what might not do. It also goes into hypotheticals. So no, I can't answer that. What I can say, again, is that the level of what we've discovered at USAID is troubling enough to where this is the kind of conversation that is perhaps going to have to be had by the American people and even perhaps Congress. But I think at this point, when we're looking at this kind of an issue that we see through our existing investigations and inquiries, that we've clearly got some problems. And so we're determined to correct those problems. Where it ends up is going to be, of course, something we'll see in the future, but that's not something I've been involved in.
So a conversation with the American people in Congress, how about with the Department of Justice?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. But it is, the seriousness with which this is being addressed is something the American people should be happy about. It is why President Trump was elected, was to take action on the things that he campaigned on, as many people did as well. We knew something was wrong and it had to change. And this is up to, of course, to the people who are doing the investigations, whether or not any of that actually manifests. All right. Yes, Sean.
Thank you, and welcome to the podium.
Thank you.
Sean Tandon with AFP. Can I switch the topic to the Middle East? The situation.
Let me ask though.
in
Any other questions on the USAID situation? A bunch of hands. I'm shocked. All right. We'll get back to you when we move into the Middle East. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Daphne Saladakis with Reuters.
Hi there.
You said that this is a pause, but we got answers from the State Department saying they've already cut 92% of the awards worth $54 billion. Is there any chance of those coming back? And that made it seem like the review was done. Is it done, or is the review still continuing?
Well, when you have a review, it is to assess what's happening in front of you, and then decisions are going to be made, right? So you've got a review. It's 90 days to make an assessment within that framework of what works and what doesn't work. If there were programs and if they've been cut, the answer would be is that they did not serve either American interests or make us safer, more secure, or more prosperous. So those decisions are going to be made. Clearly, some have been in the process of the review.
And are they final, and is the review complete?
Well, I think that each case may be different, but we do know that actions have been taken based on the standards that we set, that the Secretary of State has set, and we're moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Tammy. Jennifer Hansler with CNN. We've heard from groups saying that they had contracts for work that had been granted waivers by the Secretary because they were life-saving activities that were then given termination notices for the funding for those programs. Is there a review to see if these can be turned back on, and how many of these life-saving programs have been cut under these terminations?
Right. And just as a reminder, that part of what was a blanket waiver in this process, in the review, was, of course, we will continue to fund and continue to act on the importance of money that goes to life-saving work. Many of those programs, which, again, the President articulated during his address to Congress the other night, certainly did not meet that standard. So we have that blanket waiver dynamic. There are anecdotes of certain issues. We do know that if there's been a problem, that it is reversed. The Secretary is directly involved in this process of assessing the nature of what's happening and who's getting these funds. There is also a process for people to reach into the State Department to make the difference, to apply for a specific waiver, or to indicate if there's an issue and make their case for these situations. And I know the Secretary cares about the nature of foreign aid. It is something that has been, he's spoken about for years throughout also his tenure as a senator. And he is, I have to say, I did not know him well when I started in this position. And his commitment to the country and his personal involvement has been heartening. And I'm sure that in this kind of a dynamic, we've had some frameworks that have been arranged where people can get into the State Department, indicate if there's been an issue, and then action can be taken on those.
And do you have
Yes,
any
sir.
update on payments?
But yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Camilla Schick from CBS. Just
Hi there.
to follow up one thing on Jenny's question. Will we see a full list of the grants and the programs that have been cut or that will be cut in this 90-day review? You mentioned that there should be a conversation with the American people.
Of course.
And that I assume that means it will be something that will be transparent for people to see the list of the programs that have been cut. And then just on related to USAID, there's reporting from Reuters that more than 700 diplomats have signed a letter that is destined to go to the dissent cable for this department, expressing their concern about the dismantling, of USAID, and the fear that this is undermining U.S. leadership abroad and helping create a power vacuum for the likes of China and Russia to exploit. Do you have a comment?
Your question's important because it is about the list and what's been cut and what has been kept, and that is something that I want before I presume, because that's something I've learned to not do in this particular role, is to make sure that I have the right answer for you. So I'm going to make sure that we go back and this is also for me it's important because I think many Americans have questions about the nature of the details of what's happening, but it is the foreign policy of the world, obviously, clearly major decisions being made. And my goal is to make sure as we can so that there's a serious ability to kind of own the information I'm saying to you. Those are going to be times when I have to come back to you, and this is one of those times. But it's a good question, and yes, I'd like to get that for you.
And on the diplomats with the dissent cable?
In that regard, we have a dissent cable framework that we're very proud of. That is important. And from what I've learned is that did not actually go out in that framework. But also, we will not discuss those if there is internal communications or the nature of something like that transpiring. All right. So done with USAID. And all right, Middle East now, Sean?
Sure, let me kick it off. Could I ask you about, there's a pressure, of course, on Hamas to extend the ceasefire deal. Israel on Sunday said that it's cutting off.
We're seeing a live shot there of State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce giving the first press briefing from the department of Trump's second term. I'll be keeping an eye on any interesting tidbits that may be coming out of that. But moving on for now, when we come back, emergency talks in Europe to boost military budgets to help Ukraine. France's offer last night to protect allies with its nuclear arsenal was met with a mixed reaction. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. on food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that we're making it through. My employees and I want to thank you for your continued support by extending our wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows only $14.98. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.98. But it gets even better. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.98. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows $29.98 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including my standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.98, Kings only $1 more. Not only that, order $75 or more, ship absolutely free.
From all of us here at MyPillow,
thanks, America!
Thanks for staying with us. In another step signaling mending ties, Russian President Vladimir Putin appointed a new ambassador to the United States today. Russia has had no ambassador in Washington since last October, when the previous envoy left his post. The appointment of Alexander Darchiev follows a 6-hour meeting between Russian and U.S. officials in Turkey just last week, which was aimed at normalizing embassy operations. This comes as President Trump shifts U.S. policy on Ukraine, pausing military aid and engaging Moscow in direct talks. Darchiev has extensive experience in U.S.-Russia relations, previously serving in Washington and as ambassador to Canada. France's defense minister says Paris is providing intelligence to Ukraine. The offer comes a day after Washington said that it was suspending intelligence sharing with Kyiv. France's defense minister also said his country's nuclear weapons stockpile was sufficient. French President Emmanuel Macron said he was open to discussing extending the protection offered by its nuclear arsenal to its European partners. Originally developed as a deterrent toward the Soviet Union, the weapons now aim to deter the same nuclear threat from Russia. President Donald Trump is pushing for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to cooperate with Russia for peace talks. Emergency Ukraine talks in Europe as leaders seek to quickly boost military budgets. This after President Trump signaled that Europe must take care of its own security. France's offer last night to protect allies with its nuclear arsenal was met with mixed reactions. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson reports.
European leaders held emergency talks on Thursday on ways to quickly increase their military budgets. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen presented the Rearm Europe plan, which would provide up to $866 billion for defense investments.
It gives the member states fiscal space to invest in defense. It gives the member states possibility to invest in the Ukrainian defense industry or to procure military capabilities that go right away to Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his gratitude.
You made a strong signal to Ukrainian people, to Ukrainian warriors, to civilians, to all our families. And it's great that we are not alone. We feel it and we know it. Thank you.
While the meeting will offer words of support and plans for an increase in defense spending, Europe is not expected to be able to fully replace suspended US military aid to Ukraine. According to NATO, Washington provided more than 40% of military aid to Ukraine last year, some of which Europe could not easily provide. On Wednesday evening, French President Emmanuel Macron said he was considering placing European allies under the protection of France's nuclear arsenal. This was met with mixed reactions on Thursday.
The possibility of expanding these possibilities of deterrence with nuclear weapons on the part of France. And of course, it is most worth considering.
Nuclear umbrella would serve as really very serious deterrence towards Russia.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stressed Europe should not give up on US involvement in nuclear deterrence.
We must ensure, with a cool and intelligent head, that the support of the United States is also maintained in the coming months and years.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Macron's nuclear rhetoric posed a threat.
If they call a meeting of the chiefs of general staff of European countries in Britain, if they say that it is necessary to use nuclear weapons, to prepare to use nuclear weapons against Russia, this is, of course, a threat.
According to the Federation of American Scientists, Russia and the US are the world's biggest nuclear powers, with over 5,000 nuclear warheads each. France has 290 and Britain 225. However, the exact number of weapons in each country's arsenal is unknown because it's a closely held national secret. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
And Zelensky's chief of staff wrote on X that he and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz discussed the next steps towards a just and lasting peace. Now, he said they've scheduled a meeting for the two sides in the near future. We're going to stay on this topic. Now we're going to bring in Rick Fisher, Senior Fellow on Asian Military Affairs with the International Assessment and Strategy Center. He's also an international military analyst. Rick, thanks for joining us today. Quite a dramatic turn of events last night, I'd say, with President Macron declaring that Europe was entering a new era. I want to zoom in here on what he said about NATO members potentially putting troops on the ground in Ukraine without American support. Is this really viable for NATO's European members?
Well, they certainly can try. They simply don't have the army forces to take on a concerted Russian thrust into Ukraine. And the Russians will also be attacking the Baltics and possibly Poland as well. So this all will challenge the European ability to deploy adequate peacekeeping troops to Ukraine.
And I think it's also important to note here that France is still saying that it remains committed to both NATO and its partnership with the US. Do you see what the leaders in Europe are doing right now as perhaps a way to show the US, hey, we are stepping up, we're putting in the effort, so we're going to hope that you stay in this as well. Do you think that's what they're doing?
To a large degree, yes. They would clearly prefer that the United States remain in NATO, remain committed, as it has been for over 50 years, to deterring attacks from the former Soviet Union, now Russia, and remaining committed to deterring conflict, war in Europe.
We also know that Macron is raising the possibility of extending the protection of its nuclear arsenal to its allies. So my question here is, what kind of impact does this move have if it goes ahead? How would we see Russia respond?
Well, the Russians will have to take all of that very seriously. But I would also add that Russia has been taking the nuclear balance far more seriously than even the United States. We credit Russia with having about 2,000 non-strategic nuclear weapons. Other sources estimate that Russia may have up to 10,000 tactical nuclear weapons to use against targets in Europe. France and Britain's nuclear arsenals simply don't approach this the power of the Russian force, and would offer an inadequate deterrent without considering the addition of American nuclear forces. So the Europeans have a great amount of catch-up in the nuclear balance to undertake.
Speaking of catch-up, we know EU leaders were meeting in Brussels today to discuss defense and Ukraine. So as we see more of these talks continue without the U.S., what impact is that having on negotiations that Trump himself is trying to have with Russia on Ukraine?
Well, it actually strengthens President Trump's hand. A stronger Europe that is able to better deter conflict from Vladimir Putin is also a Europe that will better enforce any eventual peace agreement with Ukraine and Russia, and would be of great assistance to a United States effort to create a new peace, a peace between two countries that have been antagonists for more than a century.
Rick, I want to bring China into this conversation now because we did see Beijing announcing yesterday that it was going to increase its defense budget 7.2% this year. What do you make of that in light of all the other conflicts happening right now?
Well, 7.2% is just a fantasy number. The Chinese probably don't even know the actual extent of their military expenditure because the civilian sector is all configured to aid the military sector in China. Estimates that China's military budget has been over $1 trillion for many years, to me, are quite valid. And all of this supports China's ambition for global hegemony and eventually galactic hegemony. And China is trying hard to advance the notion that Europe cannot count on the United States. Europe is also weak and divided and will never amount or never create the capabilities to deter Russia and therefore must accommodate Russia, all of which serves China's long-range goals of dominating Europe. A Europe dominated by Russia also is a Europe dominated by China.
Well, how long can China keep this going up? We know they're facing their own economic challenges at home domestically. How long can it keep up all of this spending?
Well, the Chinese Communist Party does not have to face questions from a legislature, questions from a hostile press, and for the past 50 years has been devoted toward the creation of a globally deployable military force. And there is no force, no power, no faction within China that is opposing this direction, so it will continue.
We're also seeing China challenging the U.S. really in a post on X, saying that it's ready to fight any type of war. Why make that announcement now?
China wants to make extreme statements and unsettle President Donald Trump in the same way that Donald Trump wants to unsettle China's leadership. First, with tariffs and demands connected to those tariffs. But the Chinese Communist Party leadership also wants President Trump to know that it is capable of rhetorical combat at this level too, but also actually real combat. Last week, it held a live fire exercise 40 kilometers off the coast of Taiwan. That was a very serious escalation in its now 6 years of constant daily coercive military exercises around Taiwan. Coercive exercises that American military leaders believe could mask a transition to actual military operations very quickly.
Rick, we know that China has been moving closer to Russia since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And really, I think over the past few decades, there has been this ostracization of Russia from the Western world. When we look at what Trump is doing right now, you know, some experts that I've spoken to, they say that Trump's strategy here is to pull Russia away from China and closer to the Western democratic world and to weaken or isolate China. Is that how you see it?
Well, I certainly hope that the Trump administration is pursuing such a goal. That, along with President Trump's Iron Dome, or now Golden Dome, national missile defense system, are all major initiatives by this administration to change the correlation of forces in favor of the United States. All of this is well and good, but will it succeed? Will Vladimir Putin, a harsh dictator himself, move away from his ever closer military, strategic, and economic strategic relationship with dictator Xi Jinping? These are big questions, and we have to be prepared for the possibility that no, Putin will not sacrifice his alliance with Xi Jinping, and that it will grow stronger militarily and economically and pose an even greater threat, not just to the United States, but to all democracies.
Rick, last question here before we go. Closing thoughts. What do we look out for next? What's on the horizon for us from what you're seeing?
Well, the next move for the United States will be to develop a defense budget for next year. And what will this defense budget include? Donald Trump has already indicated he wants a plan to build his Iron Golden missile defense dome before the middle of this year. He's also announced plans to revive major shipbuilding capabilities in the United States. All well and good, but there are many other measures of power that have to be funded. And building up America's strength, first and foremost, is the best way to convince Russia to make peace in Ukraine and to convince China not to invade Taiwan or commit aggression against the Philippines or any other American allies in Asia.
Absolutely. Rick Fisher, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
When we come back, severe weather is sweeping the U.S. today, with dry conditions increasing the risk of wildfires in some states, while the Midwest is dealing with record-setting blizzard conditions. That and more after the break.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I had heard many times that heart disease is the #1 killer. It went in one ear and out the other, frankly. I never had a health issue. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. By the time I got to the ER, the doctor decided to give me a CAT scan. He said, "I don't think you understand. You are on the verge of a heart attack." I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. With you by our side, together we'll keep fighting this battle. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. Put yourself on your to-do list. It could be the most important thing you ever do. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. So if you want to talk to your kids, you got to get it trending. I was just trying to get your attention.
Could I just ask me?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
The Justice Department is investigating the University of California for anti-Semitism, this under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The DOJ will investigate a potential pattern of discrimination against Jewish professors, staff, and employees at the University of California. Anti-Semitic protests and encampments broke out on university campuses all across the country, including the UCLA, and captured Americans' attention last year. President Trump on Tuesday posted on Truth Social that he will stop all federal funding for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. In a statement to media, the University of California said it's unwavering in its commitment to combating anti-Semitism and protecting everyone's civil rights. The university said that it takes specific steps to foster an environment free of harassment and discrimination for everyone in its community. And moving on now, Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC is going big in the United States. Earlier this week, the world's largest contract chipmaker announced its intention to expand its investment in the U.S. by an additional $100 billion. The latest round of funding builds on the company's ongoing $65 billion investment in advanced semiconductor manufacturing in Phoenix, Arizona. TSMC plans to build 3 new fabrication plants, 2 advanced packaging facilities, and a major center. Thus, chipmakers said the project marked the largest single foreign direct investment in American history. Its CEO added the company's investment plan would not impact the chipmaker's expansion in Taiwan. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te called the investment plan a historical moment for U.S.-Taiwan relations. And tragedy in South Korea. A fighter jet accidentally dropped 8 bombs on a civilian area, injuring 8 people. Here are more details.
South Korean fighter jets accidentally dropped 8 bombs on a civilian district during military exercises in Pocheon on Thursday. The incident injured 15 people, including 2 seriously, and damaged houses, the Air Force and Fire Agency said. A pilot entered incorrect coordinates, causing the accident. A military official who declined to be identified said. The 2 jets dropped 4 bombs each, all of which detonated, he added. Pocheon is about 25 miles northeast of Seoul, near the heavily militarized North Korean border. Residents have long protested the disturbance and danger from nearby training grounds. Pocheon Mayor Baek Yong-yeon urged the government and military to prevent further civilian damage. Authorities will suspend live-fire exercises until there is a clear understanding of what went wrong. However, the incident will not affect major South Korean U.S. military drills starting Monday, the military official added. The Freedom Shield drills, running from March 10 to 20, aim to boost alliance readiness against North Korea, the Seoul Joint Chiefs of Staff said before the accident.
A new winter storm is gaining strength today on the heels of a massive and deadly one that's now pushing out of the U.S. South of those weather systems, the lack of precipitation is the problem. Dry conditions are bringing the risk of wildfires to multiple states. Take a look at today's weather.
It's a story of fire and ice as many states cope with severe weather today. Forecasters say a critical fire danger is back in Texas and the Southwest after this week's evacuations in parts of the Lone Star State and Tennessee.
It was just pitch smoke, like everything was hard to see.
A winter storm with near record strength is pushing out of the U.S. today. At least 3 people are dead due to severe thunderstorms in Mississippi. Police say 2 others died in Nebraska's winter weather. Parts of the Midwest are digging out after blizzard conditions. The resulting snow is a hassle for some.
I totally got stuck by the snow, and I'm trying to remove snow, so it's kind of ironic, right?
For others, the winter weather is a blast.
I got the laptop at home, but I shut that, come outside and make a magic moment with her.
Now a new storm system around the Great Basin is bringing rain or snow to multiple states today.
There will be mud again.
In LA County, parts of Sierra Madre are under evacuation warnings due to the risk of mud flows. The area is saturated from rain earlier this week. And this nearby debris basin is clogged from last month's storms. Some residents fear a repeat of that disaster.
It just washed all the soil away from underneath the house.
2 NASA astronauts are finally closing in on their return to Earth after 9 months in space. Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams are finally expected to check out from the International Space Station later this month.
It brings to mind family and all the people on the ground who support us. So, you know, it's been a roller coaster for them, probably a little bit more so than for us. You know, we're here, we have a mission, we're just doing what we do every day. I have 2 Labrador retrievers right now, Gunner and Rotor, who have been having boy time with my husband, and I think they'll be very happy for Mom to come home. So I think just the fact that we're living up here in this very unique place gives you an amazing perspective, not only, you know, out the window, obviously, but also just on how to solve problems. I don't want to lose that spark of inspiration and that perspective when I leave, so I'm going to have to bottle it somehow.
Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams have to wait until their replacements arrive at the International Space Station next week before they can leave. They'll be joined on their SpaceX ride home by 2 astronauts who launched by themselves in September alongside 2 empty seats. Wilmore and Williams expect to be gone just a week or so when they first launched. That was last June aboard Boeing's new Starliner capsule. The Starliner had so many problems getting to the space station that NASA ruled it too dangerous to carry anyone, and it flew back empty. In North Carolina, back here on Earth, chronically ill children have an odd but loving companion. White Top, the world's oldest llama, spends his days bringing these children comfort at Victory Junction Camp.
He's actually super, super sweet. Petting White Top and being around White Top can provide sensory input for campers who need that. It's also just really cool because of his fur and the way it feels. And he also loves to take selfies with them.
I just strode him a little bit because Llama makes me a little nervous. But when I start stroking him more and more and more, I got more relaxed. He relaxes me. So he is a relaxer for the campers and for me and other people.
At 27 years and more than 250 days old, White Top has been recognized by Guinness World Records as the oldest llama in the world. White Top was donated to Victory Junction in 2006, just 2 years after NASCAR driver Kyle Petty founded the camp in honor of his son. The year-round free camp is designed for children with conditions that include cancer, kidney, and heart disease. White Top is one of the camp's main attractions. He's known for his relaxed and empathetic personality. He's great at lying incredibly still while campers pet him, something that can bring comfort to children and give them important sensory input. When we come back, sanctuary city mayors defending their policies. We'll talk to a legal analyst about the ongoing debate as Trump seeks to conduct the largest deportation in American history. We'll be right back in the next hour. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I had heard many times that heart disease is the #1 killer. It went in one ear and out the other, frankly. I never had a health issue. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. By the time I got to the ER, the doctor decided to give me a CAT scan. He said, "I don't think you understand. You are on the verge of a heart attack." I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. With you by our side, together we'll keep fighting this battle. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. Put yourself on your to-do list. It could be the most important thing you ever do. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. President Donald Trump is scheduled to sign another batch of executive orders this afternoon. NTD learned that these will be on tariffs and not on the dismantling of the Department of Education. Some Democratic lawmakers joined Republicans to censure Congressman Al Green for his protest of President Trump's speech. President Trump says most goods from Mexico will be exempt from new tariffs, but it's only temporary. This comes just days after the sweeping tariffs on Mexico and Canada went into effect. Sanctuary city mayors defending their policies. We'll talk to a legal analyst about the ongoing debate as Trump seeks to conduct the largest deportation in American history. Millions are under wind alerts as a powerful storm moves across the U.S., bringing deadly weather, tornadoes, and fire risks. Blizzards and high winds are causing major disruptions as thousands remain without power.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Democratic lawmakers are divided over how to respond to the Republican trifecta in Washington. Some joined Republicans this Thursday to censure a fellow Democrat. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez reports.
That Representative Al Green forthwith presented himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
A group of Democratic lawmakers started singing "We Shall Overcome" on the House floor in an attempt to disrupt the proceedings to censure Congressman Al Green.
The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh.
After order was restored, voting resumed, and 10 Democrats joined Republicans in censuring Congressman Al Green for his actions during the president's speech to Congress on Tuesday night.
You know what? I don't mind being one of 10 Democrats who said, no, there's a deeper principle at stake here, which is reverence for this institution. You know, I have no love for Donald Trump, but I do have reverence for the office of the president. In the military, they salute the uniform. They don't salute the man or the woman in the uniform.
House Democrats are divided over how to oppose President Trump's legislative agenda, some even defying their leadership.
I do think that leadership tried to tell people that there should not be props. I think we all have to, again, take a look and talk to each other about what is the most effective way to be fighting back. People out, there are people throughout this country. I have people of all kinds in my district who are very angry, want to see Democrats fighting back.
Government funding expires on March 14th, and House Democrats are threatening with a government shutdown, while House Republicans are unsure they can pass a continuing resolution without the support of Democrats.
We will at all times defend Medicaid, defend Medicare, defend Social Security, defend nutritional assistance to our children and families, and defend veterans' benefits. while Republicans stand on the side of their billionaire donors.
A group of conservatives in the office with him all want to support the president's agenda. And we're going to work toward getting that continuing resolution in a form where we can pass it just like we did last week. To all the people who said you could never pass that reconciliation bill with only Republican votes, wait until next week.
On the Senate side, lawmakers invoked cloture on the nomination of Lori Chavez de Reamer to be the next Secretary of Labor. She's expected to be confirmed on a party line vote. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Canada will continue to be in a trade war with the U.S. for the foreseeable future. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that today while addressing reporters in Ottawa. Trudeau said Canada would continue to engage with senior Trump administration officials about the tariffs. He reiterated that his goal was to get the tariffs removed. His remarks came one day after what he called a colorful call with President Donald Trump. Canada immediately imposed 25% tariffs on 30 billion Canadian dollars of U.S. imports. Trudeau said those measures would remain in place until the Trump administration ended its trade actions. And President Trump announced this morning a one-month delay for Mexico tariffs. That's on all products covered by the USMCA free trade agreement. The president wrote this on Truth Social after speaking with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. This is a major step back from the administration's signature economic program. In an interview with CNBC, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick also said that tariffs could be suspended on all treaty-eligible products in Mexico and Canada, most of which were subject to a 25% tariff starting on Tuesday. The tariffs will go into effect on April 2nd, but this is unless the two countries make significant progress in cracking down on fentanyl entering the U.S. Emergency Ukraine talks in Europe as leaders seek to quickly boost military budgets. This after President Trump signaled that Europe must take care of its own security. France's offer last night to protect allies with its nuclear arsenal was met with mixed reactions. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has the story.
European leaders held emergency talks on Thursday on ways to quickly increase their military budgets. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen presented the Rearm Europe plan, which would provide up to $866 billion for defense investments.
It gives the member states fiscal space to invest in defense. It gives the member states possibility to invest in the Ukrainian defense industry or to procure military capabilities that go right away to Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his gratitude.
You made a strong signal to Ukrainian people, to Ukrainian warriors, to civilians, to all our families, and it's great that we are not alone. We feel it and we know it. Thank you.
While the meeting will offer words of support and plans for an increase in defense spending, Europe is not expected to be able to fully replace suspended US military aid to Ukraine. According to NATO, Washington provided more than 40% of military aid to Ukraine last year, some of which Europe could not easily provide. On Wednesday evening, French President Emmanuel Macron said he was considering placing European allies under the protection of France's nuclear arsenal. This was met with mixed reactions on Thursday.
The possibility of expanding these possibilities of deterrence with nuclear weapons on the part of France. And of course, it is most worth considering.
Nuclear umbrella would serve as really very serious deterrence towards Russia.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stressed Europe should not give up on US involvement in nuclear deterrence.
We must ensure, with a cool and intelligent head, that the support of the United States is also maintained in the coming months and years.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Macron's nuclear rhetoric posed a threat.
If they call a meeting of the chiefs of general staff of European countries in Britain, if they say that it is necessary to use nuclear weapons, to prepare to use nuclear weapons against Russia, this is, of course, a threat.
According to the Federation of American Scientists, Russia and the US are the world's biggest nuclear powers, with over 5,000 nuclear warheads each. France has 290 and Britain 225. However, the exact number of weapons in each country's arsenal is unknown because it's a closely held national secret. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News.
And Zelensky's chief of staff wrote on X that he and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz discussed the next steps towards a just and lasting peace. He said they've scheduled a meeting for the two sides in the near future. Meanwhile, Britain's Defense Secretary John Healey is now at the Pentagon discussing Ukraine with his American counterpart, Pete Hegseth. And moving on now, moments ago, President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff just spoke to reporters outside the White House. He said that there will be a meeting with Ukrainian officials next week.
President Zelensky sent a letter to the president. I think the president thought that it was a really good, positive first step. And from that, we're now in discussions to coordinate a meeting with the Ukrainians. It will be Saudi Arabia. And I think the idea is to get down a framework for a peace agreement and an initial ceasefire as well. We've got a lot of good buy-in from the Russians and a lot of good buy-in now from the Ukrainians. And that's the really most important thing, right? To bring two sides together, to constantly narrow the gap. This is President Trump's negotiating strategy. Let's narrow the gaps, and then let's figure out how to finally finish it.
The meeting suggests a slight upturn in relations between the U.S. and Ukraine. President Zelensky has taken steps publicly to pacify Trump following the Oval Office fallout that Zelensky referred to as regrettable. It also signals a positive step towards a potential peace deal in the Russia-Ukraine war. Witkoff also has a message to Hamas, telling them to send back all the hostages, including the bodies.
We want everybody back. We want them all back. I mean, we estimate 22, maybe 24 live bodies, and we want them all back. And we want the bodies back, too. These parents who know that their children are gone or their relatives are gone, they need those bodies back. They need closure. They need to go and bury their children properly. And so we want the dead bodies back, and we want the live bodies back.
President Trump is pushing Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to clean up homeless encampments in the city. Trump yesterday pointed to areas near the State Department and the White House. The president wrote on Truth Social that if the mayor is not able to do it, quote, "we will be forced to do it for her." Trump also added, "we want to be proud of our great capital again." Now, last month, Trump criticized the high rate of crime, graffiti, and homelessness in the nation's capital city. The president also suggested the federal government take over governing D.C. The district has had a limited form of self-governance under the control of Congress since 1973. Bowser has rejected the idea and said she believes the current system of governance is best. Moving on now, heated back and forth yesterday during a House Oversight Committee hearing. Sanctuary City mayors defended their policies on illegal immigration, while House Republicans said that they were violating immigration law. Joining us now to break it all down is Bobby Ann Cox, a civil rights attorney, legal analyst, and fellow with the Brownstone Institute. Bobby Ann, always great to have you on. Thanks for coming. The mayor of Denver, he said, now, first of all, Denver, of course, is a sanctuary city. Now, he said he wants to keep this state law that bans law enforcement from detaining someone based solely on a request from ICE. And he also wants to keep local laws that require a warrant be issued before local authorities can cooperate with ICE. This seems to me to be a good example of why the Trump administration seems to be so against sanctuary cities.
Yes, absolutely. You are correct. You know, this is what the American people voted for. They wanted President Trump back in office. He was campaigning on this specific issue very heavily. We want law and order restored. And so when you have these mayors, particularly the one you're referencing here, the mayor of Denver, Colorado, saying that, oh, we're going to keep our laws, our state laws, we're going to keep our policies, we're not going to change, we are going to defy federal law. This is a huge problem. The federal constitution of our country says in Article 1 that it is the federal government that is supposed to be in charge of immigration into our country, not the individual states. So when you have these mayors of these cities like Denver, like New York City, like Boston, like Chicago, sitting there and telling the American public that they're going to have and retain their laws and their policies, which are not what the federal law says, they are against the federal law, that is an absolute illegal move. They cannot make local laws or state laws to overrule or override a federal law. That's not how it works. Our Constitution is clear.
Well, what do you say then to those who support these sanctuary city laws who say we're not violating federal law?
Right. Well, it is clear that they are violating federal law. So, because the federal Constitution gives the power to Congress to say what our immigration laws are going to look like, we have immigration laws in place and we've had them for many years. In fact, I think probably every country in the world has an immigration law because you have to be able to regulate who's coming in your country, who they are, where they're from, whether or not they're a good person, whether or not they're a criminal, are they bringing some sort of illegal drug into, you have to have these laws. This is basic national security. And we do have those laws. So people like these mayors of these major cities that were brought into Congress yesterday to testify, when they're sitting there telling the American public that they have the power, they have the authority to have policies that directly go against federal law. Number one, they're wrong. But number two, they're also violating federal law. 8 USC, United States Code 1324, is very clear. It makes it illegal for somebody to either bring an illegal alien into our country or once they're in the country, to help them, to either transport them around the country or to help them defy detection by law enforcement authorities. That is a law that we've had on the books for a while, and that makes it a crime. You can be punished with either jail time or a fine or both if you violate that law. And really what's going on with these sanctuary city mayors is they are violating 8 United States Code 1324. They are harboring people that are in our country illegally. They are transporting them. We heard in testimony yesterday, when asked directly, Mayor Adams was asked, are you coordinating with these other sanctuary city mayors to have illegal aliens transported between your cities? And he said, yes, they are coordinating. So this is a direct violation of federal law, and they can be held accountable.
Bobby Ann, when these lawmakers or these mayors of these sanctuary cities are brought to, this fact that this is a violation of law, they'll often point to the human aspect of this whole issue, right? We saw yesterday Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. She mentioned that federal overreach is making hardworking residents afraid. And then a quote from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. He said, quote, that any actions that amplify fears of deportation make Chicago more dangerous, and that those fears cause witnesses and victims to avoid cooperating with police. And I think that's a main theme they often bring up, is that it makes people who have been victims of crime, but perhaps here illegally, afraid to come out, and that actually creates a safe haven for these criminals. What do you respond to that with?
Yes, well, I agree with you. I do hear that excuse often given by people that are defending sanctuary cities and sanctuary policies. But what you have to do is look at the root of the problem here. If the people that are coming into our country illegally were not here in the first place, then we wouldn't be in this position, and we wouldn't have to try to weigh, whose rights are more important, whose safety is more important. We do have immigration laws, and people can come to our country, and we do accept immigration. We do accept immigrants. We love it. We are a nation of immigrants, but you must do it in an orderly fashion. You must follow the law. If you just let anybody come in, then they're here. Now, their argument is, well, we can't really enforce the law because these people are already here and we don't want to endanger their safety. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable. No, you don't get a pass in breaking our laws just because you broke the law and you got away with it for a little while. If we allowed that in application to all of our laws, we wouldn't have any law and order in our country. So, to that argument, I say, let's look at the foundation of this problem. The foundation of the problem is that if you continue letting people into our country illegally without going through the proper process, we're going to continuously be faced with this problem. They shouldn't be here in the first place. And, it is quite obvious to anybody that's really paying attention and not tugging at heartstrings that just crossing the border into our country illegally and not following the proper procedures is a violation of our laws. And that does make that person a criminal because they've broken our laws. So we can't just start giving passes to people that are not abiding by the law.
And I think that's a very similar point to the one that Representative Anna Paulina Luna made yesterday. I want to get your take on what she said yesterday. She said that she'll be sending criminal referrals of the mayors to the Justice Department, and they'll go right to the hands of Pam Bondi. Where does that go from there?
Yes, well, this is exactly, where we're headed. You cannot, whether you are an elected official, the head, the mayor of a sanctuary city or not, there is not a two-tiered justice system in this country. There has been the last few years, and that's become very obvious to people, but there shouldn't be a two-tiered justice system. The laws are supposed to be applied equally. So if somebody's breaking the law, and as I referenced, 8 USC 1324 is a federal law that we have that forbids anybody from assisting, aiding, abetting, bringing into our country an illegal alien or keeping them and helping them stay hidden from law enforcement. That is a violation of our law. And whether you are a mayor of a sanctuary city who is breaking that law, or you are just a regular citizen walking down the street, there should be equal enforcement of that law. So I agree with her wholly. I think that if these mayors continue to do this and they continue to violate our law, then they should be held responsible, just like you and I would be.
Bobby Ann, closing thoughts here. The political spectrum right now is very much divided on this issue. Do you see any possible legal or legislative solutions that could help bridge that gap and address concerns on both sides, whether that's protecting the rights of immigrants or ensuring public safety?
Yes, I do think that, as you said, it is a hot topic. There is a lot of controversy on this topic. What we need to do really is look at what does our current immigration law say? What does the structure hold? And then if there's something that's really egregious in there, we can change that. There has been bipartisan legislation put forward to change our immigration laws. That has not materialized into, a law. It has not passed both chambers of Congress. But the problem really is that when we have an issue of mayors in this case of sanctuary cities that are not enforcing that law, you have to first be enforcing the laws that are on the books. Even if we want to eventually change that law down the road in a bipartisan fashion, that's great. Congress can do that. But while we have the laws that we have right now on the books, those do need to be upheld. Those do need to be enforced. And those people that are violating those laws really do need to be held accountable, whether they're a mayor or not.
Bobby Ann Cox, always great speaking with you. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me on.
When we come back, President Trump's pick to lead the Food and Drug Administration testifies before a Senate committee. If confirmed, this new commissioner will report to Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And millions are under wind alerts as a powerful storm moves across the country, bringing deadly weather, tornadoes, and fire risks. Blizzards and high winds are causing major disruptions as thousands remain without power. We'll be right back.
Supermodel Cindy Crawford doesn't just walk the red carpet, she rocks it. At 58, she steals the show and wows the press. Hollywood Life exclaims, Cindy Crawford has never lost her stunning glow. While Page 6 raves, she's still as gorgeous as ever. What is Cindy's secret? It's meaningful beauty. And now with new advanced formulas, it's better than ever. Watch as the appearance of lines and wrinkles are diminished in just weeks. It's no wonder everyone's talking about meaningful beauty.
My makeup artist said, your skin has been looking great lately. What products are you using? And I said, I'm using Meaningful Beauty. And she said, really? I've tried Meaningful Beauty before. I love those products. And then the other lady down in the trailer said, I use Meaningful Beauty. I love it.
Our new and improved formulas deliver age-defying ingredients even deeper into the skin where wrinkles begin. And this brand new offer is Cindy's most exciting ever. Because when you order, you'll get Cindy's exclusive Super Brightening Duo, a $120 value absolutely free. First, you'll get 60 of our Revive and Brighten eye masks, the celebrity secret that visibly smooths, awakens, and restores the area around your eyes. Next, discover the power of our Vitamin C Biphase Brightening Oil for an immediate boost of glamour and glow.
I'm not ashamed to say I am 53 years old. Thank you, Cindy.
The total effect of this free gift package? A red carpet ready complexion. Get all this, a $300 value for just $49.95. But you must act quickly. Results guaranteed or your money back.
So make the call or go online now and put yourself on the path to the most beautiful skin of your life. Trust me, it's worth it.
This special offer is not available anywhere else, so don't delay. Scan the code, go to meaningfulbeauty.com, or call the number on your screen now.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to Newsroom. A powerful storm system is sweeping across the U.S., bringing extreme weather with so far have taken the lives of at least 6 people. NTD's Christina Corona brings us more details and where the storm is hitting next.
Nearly 69 million people from New England to the Carolinas are under wind alerts as a powerful storm moves across the U.S., bringing strong winds, blizzards, and fire risks. At least 6 people have died due to the severe weather, 3 in Nebraska and 3 in Mississippi. The National Weather Service confirmed 3 tornadoes Wednesday, including an EF2 in Mississippi with 127 miles per hour winds, injuring 4 people. Thousands remain without power, with over 12,500 outages reported in the Northeast on Thursday morning. Wind advisories are in place for Boston, New York, and Washington, D.C., with gusts up to 55 miles per hour. The storm is bringing rain and snow to the west, reaching parts of Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, and northern Illinois by Thursday night. High winds in the southwest and southern high plains are creating travel hazards and reduced visibility from blowing dust. In the south, fire risks are high, with at least 7 fires burning in central Texas. The National Weather Service warned that dry conditions and strong winds could spark new fires in New Mexico and western Texas. A separate storm is hitting California, raising mudslide concerns in Los Angeles burn areas. A wind advisory is in effect for Ventura and LA County beaches, with an evacuation warning for Sierra Madre's Eaton Fire burn area. And up to 9 inches of snow is expected in the San Bernardino Mountains. Christina Corona, NTD News.
President Trump's pick to lead the Food and Drug Administration testifying today before the Senate Health Committee. Nominee Martin McCary covered issues ranging from the so-called abortion pill to pediatric health care. The British-American surgeon had this to say.
I have no preconceived plans on mifepristone policy except to take a solid, hard look at the data and to meet with the professional career scientists who have reviewed the data at the FDA and to build an expert coalition to review the ongoing.
Dr. McCary testified that half of American children are sick. If confirmed, he said the FDA and HHS would focus on root causes of disease.
Food has a big part of it. When we eat foods with a lot of molecules that do not appear in nature, these are chemicals. These are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the industry insists are safe. They are chemicals that the indust a subset of which are concerning. There's a body of research now that suggests concern with some of these ingredients. We have to look at those ingredients, and you have my commitment to do so if confirmed as FDA commissioner.
The Justice Department is investigating the University of California for anti-Semitism under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The DOJ will investigate a potential pattern of discrimination against Jewish professors, staff, and employees at the University of California. Anti-Semitic protests and encampments broke out on university campuses across the country, including on the campus of UCLA, and it captured Americans' attention last year. President Trump on Tuesday posted on Truth Social that he will stop all federal funding for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. In a statement to media, the University of California said that it is unwavering in its commitment to combating anti-Semitism and to protecting everyone's civil rights. The university said it takes specific steps to foster an environment free of harassment and discrimination for everyone in its community. And moving on, the Trump administration is continuing its campaign to streamline the federal government. The target this time around is the Department of Veteran Affairs. The planned reorganization includes cutting more than 80,000 jobs from the sprawling agency. VA Secretary Doug Collins explains the cuts.
President Trump has a mandate for generational change in Washington, and that's exactly what we're going to deliver at the VA. We're going to make the department work better for the veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors we are charged with serving. The days of kicking the can down the road and measuring VA's progress by how much money it spends and how many people it employs rather than how many veterans it helps are over. The money we're saving by eliminating non-mission critical and duplicative contracts is money we're going to redirect to veteran-facing healthcare, benefits, and services, resulting in massive improvements in customer service and convenience. Improving services to the veterans is exactly why the VA exists.
The VA's chief of staff says the aim is to cut enough employees to return to 2019 staffing levels of just under 400,000. White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly says the president refuses to accept the VA bureaucracy and bloat, saying that has hindered veterans' ability to receive timely and quality care. She added that the changes would ensure greater efficiency and transparency at the VA. In Congress, Democrats have decried the cuts at the VA and other agencies. Meanwhile, Republicans have so far watched with caution as the Trump administration plans changes at the agency. The Centers for Disease Control has asked about 180 fired employees to come back to work. The Associated Press saw the email with the subject line, "Read this email immediately." Current and former CDC employees say emails went out Tuesday to some probationary workers who were laid off last month, saying their termination had been rescinded. It's still not clear how many of the reinstated employees returned to work yesterday. The CDC is the latest federal agency trying to coax back workers soon after they were dismissed as part of the Trump administration's cost-cutting purge. And layoffs have surged to levels not seen since the last two recessions. Global outplacement firm Challenger Gray & Christmas reports that job cuts jumped 245% in February, with over 170,000 layoffs. That's the highest for the month since the Great Recession, and that was 16 years ago. The federal government accounted for the bulk, cutting over 60,000 jobs across 17 different agencies, an over 41,000% increase from just last year. The cuts are linked to Trump's push to shrink government. The president has described the federal government as bloated and wasteful. Challenger cites DOGE-related cutbacks as the top reason, affecting over 63,000 workers, including federal employees and contractors. Washington, D.C. has been hit hardest, losing nearly 62,000 jobs this year, compared to just 60 in 2024. The unemployment rate is forecast unchanged at 4%. When we come back, in South Korea, 2 fighter jets accidentally drop 8 bombs on a civilian district, injuring more than a dozen people. Find out about that story and more after the break.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return.
At Mathis Home,
Home, we understand that your home is a reflection of you. And during our spring style event, we have fresh new looks that are waiting to make your home look and feel great at the lowest prices. And with all the latest styles in bloom, you'll find savings in every department. Whether it's a clean and modern sectional or a rustic and traditional dining table, we have it in stock with fast and free delivery. Come find the look that's right for you at our spring style event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Thanks for staying with us. President Donald Trump just signed another batch of executive orders this afternoon. Here's a playback of that.
As a country, we protect everybody. We do everything for all these countries. And a lot of these are globalist in nature. You know, they have, if you're outside of the United States, you know, it's going to be a little bit different. We just weren't treated right. We were ripped off as a country. I've been saying it for a long time. And I did it to a certain extent in the first administration, but with COVID coming in, we had to focus on that toward the end. But we had the greatest economy in history in the first administration, and I think we'll do even better now. But this is something that we have to do. There'll always be a little short-term interruption. I don't think it's going to be big, but the countries and companies that have been ripping us aren't particularly happy with what I'm doing. But the United States will be very happy. And, you know, our farmers are going to be very happy. And again, there'll be disruption. But in the end, I said it before with China, we signed an unbelievable deal with China, $50 billion in purchases, and we're doing great. Biden, however, when he came in, they never enforced that deal. So that's the only thing that basically you have globalist companies that have been ripping us off that won't be able to rip us off any longer. I think that's what the big charge is.
Have you been influenced, some of these exemptions that have been announced and some of these temporary delays, have you been influenced in those decisions because of the market reaction?
Well, there are no delays at all. No, nothing to do with the market. I'm not even looking at the market because long term, the United States will be very strong with what's happening here. Now, these are countries and companies, foreign companies that have been ripping us off, and no president did anything about it until I came along, and then I did a lot about it. You know, we took in tariffs from China, $600 billion. Nobody else took in 10 cents from China. They never did. But when COVID came along, we had to focus on COVID. We did a great job. We got rid of that. We ended up handing over with a market that was higher than it was previous to COVID coming in. But this is very much about companies and countries that have ripped off this country, our beloved USA, and they're not going to be ripping us off anymore. So, you know, I think that has an impact on the market.
Mr. President, sir, this is a slate of nominees that's been prepared by the Presidential Personnel Office. It includes a number of sub-cabinet level appointments, a number of your ambassadors that have been previously announced, and also, crucially, given the administration's concerted effort to focus on violent crime, it includes a number of U.S. attorneys in major cities that have real crime problems.
Okay. Some very good people, too.
Thank you, sir. And then we have a number of ceremonial proclamations that Lindsay Halligan is going to.
So two very special proclamations, the first of which is a proclamation that proclaims March 2025 as Women's History Month in honor of all the wonderful women in your administration, all the wonderful women in America, and in honor of everything you've done for women and this administration has done for women in just, what, a month and a half? So.
Yeah, we've done a lot, and women have done a lot for us, right? This is an honor. We have a wonderful woman here, Maria Bartiromo.
Thank you so much.
Nice to have you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thanks for all that you're doing for women.
Thank you. She's going to do an interview of me later. Maybe I shouldn't do this interview. I should be like Biden, not do any interviews. That's great. Women, we love you.
We love you too, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent.
So the second one is a proclamation proclaiming March 2025 as Irish American Heritage Month in honor of, to commemorate our amazing friendship between America and Ireland and to just honor all of the Irish Americans. And I'm a little bit biased because I'm American and Irish, but.
Good. Well, great people. Yeah, great
St.
people.
Patrick's Day is coming up as well.
And they voted for me in heavy numbers, so I like them even more. You have to like it. You know, you're not supposed to, but you have to like that. All right. So for the Irish American people proclamation. Okay. Thanks, Lindsay.
Mr. President, your envoy, Steve Witkoff, told us a little while ago that if Hamas does not release hostages, that the U.S. and Israel could take some action. What does that mean in your eyes? Is that military action? Would you join strikes with Israel?
Well, you're going to find out. I had the honor of spending a lot of time yesterday with quite a few of the people that we got out, and I can't believe how badly treated they were, really badly treated. Stories that you wouldn't even believe. Some of it was documented, some of it was so bad you couldn't really, I don't think you can put it on. And it's a shame. And they said one thing, they have 59 hostages, of which many of them are killed. They want to know if we could just continue. They said without us, look, Biden wasn't able to get anybody out. We came along and they started releasing. But we have 59 left, of which 24 are living. The rest are dead. And I put out a statement. It's sort of self-explanatory, I think. But somebody's going to have to get a lot rougher than they're getting. It's a shame. And those 24 that are living, because they were with them just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, depending on when they got out. But they said they're in very bad shape.
You spoke today with your cabinet members and Elon Musk.
I did.
What did you tell them in regards to Elon Musk and his authorities to carry out actions?
We had a great meeting. We had Elon and we had some of the representatives for the business reps. We also had most of the cabinet members, not all of them. It doesn't really pertain to all of them, but many of them. And I thought it was a really good meeting. It was about cutting because everybody knows the country's way out of control in terms of the number of people. We have many people that don't work. We have many people probably that aren't even living that are getting checks. And we're finding all of that out, and it's being reported. We're going to save hundreds of billions of dollars. We've already saved a lot. And parts of it are contracts that are expired that we're paying on. Many crazy things that, you can see it happening. It shouldn't happen, but you can see it happening. You see a lot of it being put out. But the other thing I think most important for today, I want the cabinet members to keep good people. I don't want to see a big cut where a lot of good people are cut. I want the cabinet members to keep the good people, and the people that aren't doing a good job, that are unreliable, don't show up to work, et cetera, those people can be cut. So I had a meeting, and I said, I want the cabinet members, go first, keep all the people you want, everybody that you need. And it would be better if they were there for 2 years instead of 2 weeks, because in 2 years they'll know the people better. But I want them to do the best job they can. When we have good people, that's precious. That's very important, and we want them to keep the good people. And so we're going to be watching them, and Elon and the group are going to be watching them. And if they can cut, it's better. And if they don't cut, then Elon will do the cutting.
So, Mr. President, is that a reflection that you think Doge and Elon Musk have been moving too quickly?
No, I think they've done an amazing job. They've done an amazing job, and look at what they found. I read it the other night in the speech. I mean, they found these things where billions of dollars has been poured down the drain to things. That's not about people, that's about contracts where billions and billions of dollars was just thrown out the window. It probably got kickbacks. I'm sure there were tremendous kickbacks for the people that authorized those contracts. But no, Elon has been really teaching everybody about the numbers that you can do. But what I want the numbers, but I also want to keep the good people. We want to get rid of the people that aren't working, that aren't showing up, and have a lot of problems. And so they're working together with Elon, and I think we're doing a really great job. We're cutting it down. We have to for the sake of our country. You can't have that kind of fat. It's bloat, and like nobody's ever seen before. where you need 20,000 and they have 120,000 people. And you just don't need that many. And it happens with companies and it happens with governments, I guess. You could go to a lot of governments, you'd see the same thing. But we're trying to get it down. We want to be able, next year, we could balance the budget. I think there's a good chance we could balance the budget next year. We have a lot of good things happening. Plus, we have a lot of revenue things happening, like today with the shipbuilding. And this gentleman behind me is going to create a lot of jobs. And you know, he's about the biggest there is in the world. We had the biggest chip maker in the world here a few days ago. He's going to be spending $200 billion on building plants. We're not giving him any money to build it either. You know, it's not, that CHIP Act is ridiculous, where the Biden thing, where they give billions of dollars to people that have nothing but money. They're not going to spend that money. They're just taking that money. We're giving nothing. They're coming in because of the tariffs, because they don't want to pay the tariffs, and they're opening up big. So, but with respect to people, I said, I want to cut the people, but I want to keep the good people.
President, tariffs, sir, can you walk us through the next steps on this? Steel and aluminum tariffs are due to kick in next week on Canada, Mexico, and every other country. Are those going to be modified as well?
No, those aren't modified. Those are happening next week. And the big one will be on April 2nd when reciprocal tariffs. So if India or China or any of the countries that really, India is a very high tariff nation. I'll tell you what's a high tariff nation is Canada. Canada charges us 250% for our milk product and other product, and a tremendous tariff on lumber and things as such. And yet we don't need their lumber. We have more lumber than they do. We don't need Canada's lumber. So what I'm doing is I'll be signing an executive order freeing up our forests so that we're allowed to take down trees and make a lot of money and then reharvest trees. Also, we're cutting fire divides. A fire divide is a 50-yard to 70-yard swath where the trees can't, you know, it's long enough so trees don't burn forever until you can get them out. And those trees can be sold and made a lot of money with. So, but we'll be doing that. We don't need trees from Canada. We don't need cars from Canada. We don't need energy from Canada. We don't need anything from Canada. So where we can be self-sustaining, which is in most things. Look, we have more oil and gas than anybody. Our forests are massive, massive forests. We're just not allowed to use them because of the environmental lunatics that stopped us. So I'm going to be freeing that up very shortly so that we don't have to go to other countries to buy lumber. You know, why should we be buying lumber from other countries, paying tariffs, paying big prices, extraordinary prices, and we have lumber. We have the best lumber. Go ahead.
And this USMCA exemption that you're essentially announcing today for this 1 month?
It's just a modification, short term, because I didn't want to hurt the American, it would have hurt the American car companies if I did that.
Would you consider the same sort of exemption or pause for the auto tariffs you're talking about next month?
We're not looking at that, no.
You're not
No, we're not looking at that, no. No.
Revoking the TPS for the Ukrainians who live here in the U.S.?
What about it?
Are you considering revoking the TPS status for the more than 200,000 Ukrainians who live here in the U.S.?
What are you saying? I don't know.
The Ukrainians that are here in the U.S., they're under a TPS status.
On GPS?
TPS, temporary.
Oh, I thought you said GPS.
TPS.
Yeah.
There was some news saying that they were going to be revoked and they were going to be deported from the country. Are you considering that for the
Well, we're not looking to hurt anybody. We're certainly not looking to hurt them. And I'm looking at that, and there were some people that think that's appropriate and some people don't, and I'll be making a decision pretty soon. Okay?
President Trump
But we're not looking to hurt them.
President Trump
Especially Ukrainians. They've gone through a lot. Yeah, Peter?
The clocks are going to spring forward on Sunday. When are you going to get rid of daylight savings time?
Okay, are you ready? So, this should be the easiest one of all, but it's a 50-50 issue. And if something's a 50-50 issue, it's hard to get excited about it. I assume people would like to have more light later, but some people want to have more light earlier because they don't want to take their kids to school in the dark. And it's very much, it's a little bit one way, but it's very much a 50-50 issue. And it's something I can do, but a lot of people like it one way, a lot of people like it the other way. It's very even. And usually I find when that's the case, what else do we have to do?
And I got to ask, because you were talking about this in your joint address, you were talking about Butler. It's been 7 months. Why do you think we don't know more about the guy who shot you in the ear?
Yeah, oh, well, and the second one with all of his cell phones. So I want to find the answers. I've told them. In fact, today I said, I want to find, we can no longer blame Biden for that one. He should have released that a long time ago. So they are giving me a report next week sometime, and I do believe I'll be releasing. I want to release the report. A lot of people have asked that question. You had one who had 3 apps, 2 of which were foreign, supposedly, and who has the biggest white shoe law firm in Pennsylvania, even though they don't live in necessarily a white shoe area. What's that all about? His law, the law firm. The other one had 7 or 6 cell phones, and I don't have 6 cell phones. And why would somebody have 6 cell phones? So we're going to be releasing a report on that soon, Peter.
But based on what you're saying right there, the lack of information and the data points that you just gave, does that make you think that there's some part of that there's some bigger?
It could be. Well, it makes other people think that. It makes me think it a little bit too. I say, when you have 3 apps and 2 of them are foreign, and you had an FBI that wouldn't report on it, they didn't want to say why, I would say that could be suspicious. And then on the second assassin, you had, and by the way, I have to tell you, Secret Service did a great job on that by spotting him. But on the second one, he had 6 cell phones. That's a lot of cell phones. And a couple of them had some strange markings on them. So, yeah, I want to find out, and I would be willing to release it. I mean, maybe there's a reason that we shouldn't, so I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis, but yeah, I would be very willing to release that. I'd like to see it. I want to see it myself, Peter. Not only you, I want to see that one myself.
Mr. President, may I?
Yes.
President Macron yesterday said that France was ready to offer its nuclear protection to other European countries. What do you make of it? And in this case, would the U.S. also maintain a nuclear umbrella for European countries?
Well, France is also willing to put soldiers into Ukraine for safety reasons if we can get it. I will say that we've made a lot of progress with Ukraine and a lot of progress with Russia over the last couple of days. And it'd be great to bring that to an end so we don't have to talk that way about nuclear. It'd be great if everybody would get rid of their nuclear weapons. We have Russia and us have by far the most. China will have an equal amount within 4 or 5 years. And it would be great if we could all denuclearize, because the power of nuclear weapons is crazy. It is crazy. And I was very far along a process with Russia, despite the Russia hoax, which didn't make it easy. It was a total hoax, a total rigged hoax by some bad people. But despite that, I was very close to having a program with Russia, denuclearization, and we're going to get China. I spoke to President Xi about it, and he would have been very happy to have gone along with it. But bad things happened, like an election that was rigged happened, and so we had to come back 4 years later. But I would very much like to start those talks. The opposite of what you say, the denuclearization would be incredible.
Mr. President, on the auto tariffs that you were talking about, I know yesterday you spoke with the big 3. Did you tell them that no more exemptions were on the way, and what was the reaction?
I told them, that's it. This was a short-term deal. And they came back to me yesterday. They said, could we have some help on the tariffs because of the speed? And I said, look, I'm going to do it, but that's it. Don't come back to me after the April 2nd. I don't want to hear from you after April 2nd. We're not going to be doing it anymore. I want to help them.
What was the response?
They didn't complain, but I helped them short-term during this short-term transition. April 2nd is going to be a very big day for America.
Mr. President, my understanding is that the longstanding U.S. policy is that we do not negotiate with terrorists. So how did you come to the decision to send somebody from your team to negotiate with Hamas?
We are having discussions with Hamas. We are helping Israel in those discussions because we're talking about Israeli hostages. And we're not doing anything in terms of Hamas. We're not giving cash. We're not giving $6 billion like you hear other administrations give. And in fact, I got 59 hostages out, and we gave nothing. In 59, we gave nothing, not including what's going on with Hamas. I mean, I consider that something where we're helping Israel for the most part. We had a couple of hostages, as you know. We got a couple of hostages out, American hostages.
Mr. President,
But certainly, Peter, you have to negotiate. There's a difference between negotiating and paying. We want to get these people out. If you would have seen the people yesterday, maybe you did, I don't know, but if you would have seen them, the way they spoke about their captivity, it was unbelievable. It's terrible.
Are you thinking about making any changes to NATO where a NATO country gets attacked, but they're not paying enough dues, so the United States doesn't defend them?
Well, I've said that to them. I said, if you're not going to pay, we're not going to defend. I said that 7 years ago. And because of that, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, if you're not going to pay your bills, we're not going to defend you. And it also went for the attack. But if they got attacked, they said, well, does that mean you won't defend us? I said, are you current or are you delinquent? They said, if we were delinquent, would you? I said, nope, I would not. And because of that, as you know, hundreds of billions of dollars came into NATO. You wouldn't have NATO right now if I weren't there. And your previous Secretary General has said that. He said he's never seen anything like it. When I came to NATO, when I first had my first meeting, I noticed that people weren't paying their bills at all. And I said I should wait till my second meeting, and I did. And I brought that up. And I said, if you don't pay your bills, we're not going to participate. We're not going to protect you. And when I said that, as soon as I said that, it was amazing how the money came in. The money came in, and now they have money. But even now, it's not enough. It's really not enough. They should be paying more.
Mr. President, question on the investment, sir. You've overseen about $2 trillion worth of domestic private sector investments come in just about 2 months. This is the newest one. It comes after your announcement of a new shipbuilding office at the White House during your joint session to Congress. Can you talk about why this is important, not only for national security, but to continue the renaissance of domestic manufacturing?
Well, we have to maintain a strong country. We have to maintain, we want to pay off debt. We have a lot of debt, but that'll start coming off quickly when this all comes around. Look, we've been supporting the whole world. You mentioned NATO and you mentioned other things. We've been supporting the whole world. When I first came in, we were paying almost 100% of NATO. NATO it was crazy. We were supporting NATO. We were paying the bills for other countries. And yet those same countries, mostly European, the European countries were ripping us off in trade. They won't take our cars. They wouldn't take our agricultural product. They wouldn't take anything. Yet we were taking their cars by the millions, Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen, all of them. We were taking their cars. They weren't taking it. We were taking their farm products. They weren't taking ours. It was a total ripoff. And yet we were protecting them by giving them the money. And, that adds up to a bad number at the end of a lot of years. And that's what happened. And now it's time for this country to stop being ripped off. I had that done very much in the first administration, but then we had to focus on other things at the very end with COVID. And, but we had the greatest economy in history. We had the greatest economy in history. I think we're going to redo it here, but even better. And I wanted to do what we're doing now in the first term, but we had so many other things to do. We had to fix the border, which we did. We had to fix our military. We rebuilt our military. We completely rebuilt the military, only to watch Biden give so much of it away to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. It's not even believable. It's not even believable what he did. The damage that man did or that administration did to this country is frankly not even believable. And in particular, allowing millions and millions of people to come into our country. Many of them were murderers and drug dealers and gang members and people from prison for very heinous crimes. For him to allow those people into our country, and now we're spending tremendous amounts of time and effort. Nikki and Tom Homan, who's doing an unbelievable job, but we shouldn't have to be spending anything on that. We had the safest border ever. Now we have actually, as you saw, the numbers just came out, where we have actually the lowest numbers in the history of our country. But we shouldn't have had to do that. What we're doing now is we're looking for murderers. Can you believe it? We're looking for murderers because thousands of murderers, some about 50%, killed more than one person. One killed 5 or 7. And we're looking for those people right now. We shouldn't have to be looking for them.
President Trump, on Peter's question, are you going to make that policy, U.S. policy, that the U.S. wouldn't defend NATO countries that don't pay?
Well, I think it's common sense, right? If they don't pay, I'm not going to defend them. No, I'm not going to defend them. I got into a lot of heat when I said that. You said, oh, he's violating NATO. And, you know, the biggest problem I have with NATO, I really, you know, I mean, I know the guys very well. They're friends of mine. But if the United States was in trouble and we called them, we said, we got a problem, France, we got a problem, a couple of others I won't mention. Do you think they're going to come and protect us? They're supposed to. I'm not so sure.
So
You know, with
why-
Japan,
why
you know, with
stay
Japan we have a deal, which is a very interesting one. And I love Japan. We have a great relationship with Japan, but we have an interesting deal with Japan that we have to protect them, but they don't have to protect us. Do you know that? That's the way the deal reads. We have to protect Japan. And by the way, they make a fortune with us economically. There's another case. But we have to protect Japan, but under no circumstances do they have to protect us. I actually ask, who makes these deals? Yeah, Peter?
Well, so why stay in NATO at all?
I view NATO as potentially good, but you gotta get some good thinking in NATO. It's very unfair what's been happening. Until I came along, we were paying close to 100% of NATO. So think of it. We're paying 100% of their military, and they're screwing us on trade.
And when Zelensky inevitably comes back to the White House, what do you expect from him? And do you think you'll see him in a necktie?
Well, I think what's going to happen is Ukraine wants to make a deal because I don't think they have a choice. I also think that Russia wants to make a deal because in a different way that only I know, they have no choice either.
Are you still thinking of going to Saudi Arabia and meeting with Putin about this?
I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm going to Saudi Arabia.
Mr. President,
They've been very, I've made a deal with Saudi Arabia where, because normally you'd go to UK first, and last time I went to Saudi Arabia, they put up $450 billion. You know that, right? You were there. We had American companies that took in $450 billion. I said, well, this time they've gotten richer. We've all gotten older. So I said, I'll go if you pay $1 trillion, $1 trillion to American companies, meaning the purchase over a 4-year period of $1 trillion. And they've agreed to do that. So I'm going to be going there, and I have a great relationship with them, and they've been very nice. But they're going to be spending a lot of money to American companies for buying military equipment and a lot of other things.
Is that a trip in the near future?
Probably over the next month and a half. Yes.
Mr. President, you told us a couple weeks ago that you were looking to speak with President Xi of China. That hasn't happened. How come, and what are you waiting for?
I have spoken to him, yeah.
Since that last phone call?
I don't want to say that, but I have spoken to him. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Mr. President,
I have a great relationship with President Xi.
But you've spoken to him.
It was hurt because of COVID.
Thank you, Mr.
That's why I don't call it the China virus anymore. He said, please don't call it the China virus.
But to be clear, you've spoken to him since January 17th?
I don't want to say that, but I have spoken to him.
Thank you,
And
Mr. President.
I speak to him a lot.
Regarding this executive order you signed revoking security clearances at Perkins Coie, do you think there should be more steps like this to be taken against other people involved in the Russia collusion?
I do, but that's going to be up ultimately to the Attorney General and various other people.
Absolutely. Just as a follow-up, the other night, we saw Democrats' behavior during your joint address to Congress.
Yeah.
Do you think it shows just how out of touch they are with the American people, especially given that 79%, according to a CBS poll, approved of your speech?
I love this guy. Who are you with?
My name's Nick Gilbertson with Breitbart News.
I see. I really liked your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Sir, regarding the executive order.
The answer is just, Nick, just to, and I know your name very well. Good job, you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, the answer is I thought it was very embarrassing for the Democrats what happened the other night. And that's not said for any other reason other than it's obvious, it's fact. Even CNN fake news said that. They came out and they said it. And worse than CNN is MSDNC, which is the worst. And the good news is very few people watch them anymore. They have lost such credibility. And frankly, what Nicole Wallace said, I've never been a fan of hers, and she's not very talented. But I'll tell you, what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway. I don't know if it's not possible they pay her as much money as I hear, but certainly she's lost all credibility, both of them. But what they said the other day, they should be forced to resign about that young person who is suffering greatly. Thank you, Nick.
Will you extend, if a TikTok deal is not made on the timeline you gave, will you extend that?
Probably, yeah.
You will?
Okay. I think, look, we have a lot of interest in TikTok. And China is going to play a role. And so hopefully China will approve of the deal. But they're going to play a role. But we have a lot of interest in TikTok.
How long will you extend it, and how close are you to a deal?
Well, we'll see. But if I need, I don't, right now we have at least another month, so we don't need an extension. But if I needed an extension, I'd probably get it extended. Yeah, but
Mr. President, regarding the executive orders, there was talk that you might sign one winding down the education department.
Which department?
The education department. Are you having second thoughts on that?
No. I want to bring the schools. I want to bring the schools back to the states. And I've said it 100 times. We're ranked at the bottom of the list, and yet we spend more. We're ranked #1 for cost per student. We're ranked at the bottom of the list in education. And I know if I bring it back to Iowa, Indiana, Idaho, all these great states. I think I could say 40 states. I want to bring it back. 10 states won't be perfect. 5 states will be probably not so good. But they will be every bit as good as Norway and Denmark and Sweden and all of the states that are rated at the top. If you tell me about Indiana and some of these great states that run really well, Iowa, you tell me about those states, and if they run their own education, they're going to do a lot better than somebody sitting in Washington, D.C. that couldn't care less about the pupils out in the Midwest.
When do you think that might be signed then? When would you sign that order?
Well, I want to just do it. I mean, we're starting the process. We're trying to get the schools back into the states. Let the states run the schools. And I'll tell you, you'll see something, it's gonna blow your mind. It'll be run so well. The school system. And I also believe in school choice, but that will take care of itself.
A follow-up to that, Mr. President, if the education department were eliminated, how would you see sort of what department, what agency would handle student loans and the other types of federal grants?
That would be brought into either Treasury or Small Business Administration or Commerce. And we've actually had that discussion today. I don't think the education should be handling the loans. That's not their business. I think it'll be brought into small business maybe. Kelly really liked it and really would like to do it. So the loans would be brought into a group where they really do that. And I think it should be good. That is, by the way, the most complicated thing in moving. But it's very simple if you do that.
And the same for like federal grants.
Rejected your plan to move out more than 2 million people out of Gaza. What's your reaction to that and to Egypt's plan and to this meeting that happened?
Out of Gaza?
Yeah.
I think that Gaza's a mess. And I think that Gaza could be good. I think it's got to be run properly. But right now, Gaza is an absolute mess, and it has been for many, many years and decades. Yeah, Peter, did you have one more?
I did, yeah. They have these 2 Starliner astronauts stuck in space for 8 months. Have you spoken to them?
They left them alone. Biden left them up there.
And what do you know about that?
I know everything about it. I said, we have 2 astronauts that are stuck in space. I have asked Elon, I said, do me a favor, can you get him out? He said, yes, he is preparing to go up, I think, in 2 weeks.
What do you know about how this went down? Because he's saying that the Biden White House was offered some kind of SpaceX rocket to go get these guys, and they said no.
That's what I heard. I can't tell you that, but that's what I heard. But Biden was embarrassed by what happened, and he said, leave them up there. I would have said, if you're embarrassed, you got to get them out. Elon is right now preparing a ship to go up and get them.
I'm sure that they will see this in space. What is your message?
So we love you, and we're coming up to get you, and you shouldn't have been up there so long. The most incompetent president in our history has allowed that to happen to you, but this president won't let it happen. We're going to get them out. We're coming up to get you. I've authorized Elon. I said, can you get them out? Because, you know, they've been left up there. I hope they like each other, but maybe they'll love each other. I don't know. But they've been left up there. Think of it. And I see the woman with the wild hair, a good solid head of hair she's got. There's no kidding. There's no games with her hair. But, and you know, there's a danger up there, too. They can have some failures up there that would be very bad. You got to get them out. So I've authorized Elon a week ago. I said, you know, we have two people up there that Biden and Kamala left up there, and he knows it very well. I said, are you equipped to get him? He said, yeah, he's got a Starship, and they're preparing it right now. And so Elon is going to go up and get him. Should I go on that journey just to be on the ship when we stop?
If that's an option, yes.
I should do it. Oh, that's terrible. I thought he liked me. I thought he liked me. I thought, Maria, should I do it?
Well, you should then come.
Stay here.
Maria likes me better.
President Trump,
Stay
you should
here.
then come back from space.
Well, when they come back, I'll greet them. How about that? No, we're going to get them out. I've authorized Elon Musk to go and get them, and he's prepared to do so.
Mr. President, what are you making of the market sell-off this week?
I think it's globalists that see how rich our country's going to be, and they don't like it. You know, there's a big market out there. But again, they've been ripping off this country for years, and now, and they're going to do great. Everyone's going to do great, but we can't let this continue to happen to America. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country any longer. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you, Nick. Great.
And that was President Trump signing executive orders, one of which is delaying tariffs on Canada for 1 month and taking reporter questions as well. Next, Democratic lawmakers are divided over how to respond to the Republican trifecta in Washington. Some joined Republicans this Thursday to censure a fellow Democrat. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more on the story.
That Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
A group of Democratic lawmakers started singing "We Shall Overcome" on the House floor in an attempt to disrupt the proceedings to censure Congressman Al Green.
The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh.
After order was restored, voting resumed, and 10 Democrats joined Republicans in censuring Congressman Al Green for his actions during the president's speech to Congress on Tuesday night.
You know what? I don't mind being one of 10 Democrats who said, no, there's a deeper principle at stake here, which is reverence for this institution. You know, I have no love for Donald Trump, but I do have reverence for the office of the president. In the military, they salute the uniform. They don't salute the man or the woman in the uniform.
House Democrats are divided over how to oppose President Trump's legislative agenda, some even defying their leadership.
I do think that leadership tried to tell people that there should not be props. I think we all have to, again, take a look and talk to each other about what is the most effective way to be fighting back. People out, there are people throughout this country. I have people of all kinds in my district who are very angry, want to see Democrats fighting back.
Government funding expires on March 14th, and House Democrats are threatening with a government shutdown, while House Republicans are unsure they can pass a continuing resolution without the support of Democrats.
We will at all times defend Medicaid, defend Medicare, defend Social Security, defend nutritional assistance to our children and families, and defend veterans' benefits. While Republicans stand on the side of their billionaire donors.
A group of conservatives in the office with him all want to support the president's agenda. And we're going to work toward getting that continuing resolution in a form where we can pass it just like we did last week. To all the people who said you could never pass that reconciliation bill with only Republican votes, wait until next week.
On the Senate side, lawmakers invoked cloture on the nomination of Lori Chavez de Reamer to be the next Secretary of Labor. She's expected to be confirmed on a party line vote. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Coming up after the break, Utah has passed legislation to require age verification and parental consent in app stores, though some say it's an unconstitutional invasion of privacy. Don't go away.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there. Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming, but your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Focus on beauty, showcase nature, share kindness, feel brightness. 2025, the 5th NTD International Photography Competition. Capture the beautiful moments in your eyes. Your works will be showcased in galleries and on multiple online platforms, appreciated and collected. Please visit photo.ntdtv.com.
And for today's business matters, the Trump administration's tariffs on fuel imports from Canada will affect some parts of the U.S. more than others. And that's because different parts of the nation get gas, diesel, and crude from various sources. Experts say the Northeast and West Coast will likely see gas prices rise sooner than other regions. Canada remains a prime source of oil for the U.S. Last year, it shipped in 1.5 billion barrels to the American market. Analysts say the rise in fuel costs will not be immediate. Commuters are also benefiting from relatively low gas prices. According to AAA, gas prices in the U.S. have remained steady this week and have dropped about 2 cents per gallon since January. 401ks are becoming a rainy day fund for more Americans. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, citing Vanguard Group, which administers 401k type accounts for millions of people. The journal reports a record percentage of people took early withdrawals from their 401k last year, when nearly 5% of account holders took them. Now compare that to the previous record at about 3.5% in 2023. The pre-pandemic average was around 2%, and people took early withdrawals to prevent foreclosures pay bills, medical bills, other emergencies as well. More than a third of those who took hardship distributions in 2024 did it to avoid eviction or foreclosure. That's down from 39% from the year before. Others used their early withdrawal to buy or fix a home. Delta is the new boarding group being called up for a more fuel-efficient future of flying. The airline is partnering with startup JetZero to accelerate the development of a blended wing-body commercial aircraft. The main body of these aircrafts are wide and blend into the wing, allowing the entire structure to create lift. This would allow the aircraft to burn half the fuel of today's jets. Delta will provide operations and cabin design input as part of its Sustainable Skies Lab. The takeoff goal for the blended wing-body aircraft is 2027. Commercial flights would come years later. Widespread economic uncertainty as Macy is mid-turnaround. That's what executives described as they said even affluent shoppers are waiting to see how tariffs and inflation play out. The department store giant expects sales to decline again this year. It's forecasting about $21 billion down, about $1 billion from the year before. There were some bright spots in its results that suggest Macy's turnaround could be working. Sales were up at its so-called first 50 locations, the stores it's testing to see if sales will grow by devoting more resources to them. And Utah has become the first state to pass legislation requiring app stores to verify users' ages. If the bill becomes law, parental consent will also be needed for minors to download apps onto their devices. NTD's Sean Marshall has more on this.
On Wednesday, Utah became the first state to pass legislation requiring app stores to verify users' ages and get parental consent for minors to download apps onto their devices. The bill is headed to the desk of Governor Spencer Cox. App-centric companies like Meta, which operates Facebook and Instagram, is in contention with App Store giants Apple and Google over who should be responsible for verifying ages. Meta and other social media companies want app stores to carry that responsibility. That's amid criticism that social media companies don't do enough to make their products safe for children or verify that no kids under 13 use them. Governor Cox has until April 1st to either sign or veto the legislation. Apple and Google are among a number of tech companies that help support the Chamber of Progress, a tech policy group that lobbied Utah lawmakers to reject the bill. Last year, Apple helped kill a similar bill in Louisiana that would have required app stores to help enforce age restrictions. A spokesperson for the Chamber of Progress called the measure a tremendous encroachment of individual privacy that he said places a heavy burden on app stores to ensure online safety. Republican Senator Todd Weiler, the bill's sponsor, argued it's a lot easier to target 2 app stores than it is to target 10,000 app developers. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And orders are coming in for U.S. toy makers. The New York Post reports that the new tariffs on goods made in China, Mexico, and Canada have directed demand to a small group of toy manufacturers in the U.S. For example, Simplay 3, which makes outdoor playhouses, sandboxes, and more, has a factory in Ohio. The company said it needs to hire more workers and have signaled a deal and signed a deal for educational toys that were being made overseas. Simplay 3 declined to name the companies it's working with and notes the trade-offs in its increased labor costs in the U.S. Another example is Pi Games, a 3D printer. At a toy fair, the company boasted that its products are made in the USA and aren't subject to tariffs. And there's no doubt where Elon Musk stands on privatization. President Trump's advisors said at a conference he believes the U.S. should make private anything that can reasonably be privatized. And that includes the U.S. Postal Service and Amtrak. During a technology conference yesterday, Musk referenced the vast train transportation systems in other countries, calling Amtrak a sad situation. Musk also said a service had to have the risk of going bankrupt in order to have a good feedback loop for improvement. Musk acknowledged that a lot of these changes would require acts of Congress. Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC is going big in the United States. Earlier this week, the world's largest contract chip maker announced its intention to expand its investment in the U.S. by an additional $100 billion.
Because of clients' demand, so far all of our production lines this and next year are fully booked. Even the production line that will be built the year after next is booked too.
The latest round of funding builds on the company's ongoing $65 billion investment in advanced semiconductor manufacturing in Phoenix, Arizona. TSMC plans to build 3 new fabrication plants, 2 advanced packaging facilities, and a major research and development center. The chipmaker said the project marked the largest single foreign direct investment in American history. Its CEO added the company's investment plan would not impact the chipmaker's expansion in Taiwan. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te called the investment plan a historic moment for U.S.-Taiwan relations. And it's going to be the only solar panel with all American-made components. That's what tech company Corning said when it announced a partnership with U.S. solar manufacturers Suvina and Helene. This is a meaningful milestone in the effort to establish a U.S. solar manufacturing sector that can compete with China. Helene is based in Canada but produces panels in Minnesota. Suvina is a cell maker based in Georgia. And Corning and its subsidiary make the solar industry's raw material in Michigan. The companies say the new module contains a solar cell with up to 66% domestic content, and that's the highest percentage on the market. European automakers shares jumped today after President Trump gave car makers a 1-month reprieve from his 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. The European automakers and components index was up around 1.5%. Porsche, Volkswagen, BMW, and Volvo were up between 2.5% and 3.5%. Mercedes cruised over 4%. European car makers have said they may move some production to the U.S. depending on the tariffs. Trump has also floated potential reciprocal tariffs on Europe that could hit next month. Auto giant Stellantis has pledged to manufacture more American-made cars. The company thanked Trump for the tariff pause. Stellantis shares jumped 1.5%. Tariff threats on semiconductors into the U.S. have already been made, but will consumers or companies pay for them? That's what Malaysia's trade minister and local companies are trying to figure out. The Southeast Asian nation is home to a large semiconductor industry and is one of the top exporters of chips to the U.S. President Trump said he intends to impose 25% or higher tariffs on semiconductors. The trade minister said the government has not discussed what it will do or whether it will provide financial support or offset tariffs. President Trump says he'll establish a new office of shipbuilding within the White House to revitalize the industry and bolster American naval strength. Earlier, I spoke with Sal Mercogiano, PhD, maritime historian at Campbell University for analysis. Take a look. What do you think the main concern is here that led to creating a White House office of shipbuilding?
Thank you for having me this morning. I think it was a long time coming. There's been a pronounced effort to really highlight the fact that China in particularly has been dominating the shipbuilding and the shipping industry. The U.S. has allowed it to really slack off, not become a major player. And what we've seen is issues in U.S. shipbuilding, particularly over on the Navy side. But more importantly, on the commercial side, the U.S. only represents a very small fraction of total ship construction. Less than 0.5% of ships are built in the United States compared to almost 70% in China.
Can you go a little bit deeper into that? How does the U.S. shipbuilding compare with China's? You said China is dominating, so how does it compare?
Yeah, if you look over the past 25 years, China has become really the dominant force in shipbuilding. After the end of World War II, the United States began to cede commercial shipbuilding to other nations. We saw Europe, and then we saw Japan, for example, become major shipbuilders. In the 80s, it was the Korea, but then in the 2000s, it was China. And a recent report by the U.S. Trade Representative noted that China has really undertaken a program to dominate the shipping industry. And it's not just in the area of shipbuilding, it's crews on board vessels, it's the registry of vessels, it's ownership of vessels. And so they're using all types of assets to really corner the shipping industry. For example, almost nearly every shipping container in the world today is built solely in China, and they control the leasing of those containers out on the global marketplace.
So Trump actually proposed special tax incentives in driving shipbuilding growth. Is that going to be effective?
I think it's going to be necessary. I think there's going to be more necessary. I think that's one of the reasons you heard the creation of this Office of Shipbuilding. I think there really needs to be a look at what exactly we're going to see. We've got several initiatives underway at the same time. Congress has pushed through a Ships for America Act. We have the U.S. Trade Representative who's pushing forward these taxes on Chinese-built and Chinese-owned ships coming into the United States. And now this Office of Shipbuilding, along with a proposed executive order from the White House, will begin the process to really begin shipbuilding as a major component in the United States industrial revitalization.
Is it necessary for the U.S. to compete with China? Is it a relevant question to ask in today's geopolitical environment?
I think for a long time, the U.S. took the kind of the policy that we really didn't need to compete in the commercial shipping world. It was fine to allow other countries to basically build our ships. We were fine with this concept of open registry, ships being flagged in Panama, Liberia, and the Marshall Islands. And so what we got from it was a lot of low-cost transportation. It was very good for the economy. It was good for world trade. We've seen world trade increase dramatically over the past 70, 80 years. However, what we're seeing right now is some contention on the high seas. You have issues like the Houthi in the Red Sea, issues in the South China Sea. We're seeing the Russian dark fleet, these vessels that are carrying just Russian fuel around. And I think there's a lot of concern that we're seeing a bifurcation, a splitting of the commercial fleet that's out there from one that is all under this kind of UN developed world nation fleet to segregated fleets and regional fleets. And that means that the U.S. has got to get back into the commercial shipbuilding field.
All right, Sal, we're out of time today. Thank you very much for coming on. It was great to speak with you.
Thanks for having me.
Ultimate Fighting, Wrestling, and now Boxing TKO Group Holding is entering the boxing promotion ring with Saudi Arabia's Turkey, Alaska, and entertainment conglomerate Sleep. UFC President Dana White and WWE President Nick Khan will run the day-to-day operations of the new venture. White referred to the promotion as a new league. A statement said it will provide a premier platform for both leading boxers and up-and-comers. Right now, boxing is made up of several organizations, including the World Boxing Association, the World Boxing Council, and more. Each have their own rules for championship belts. Spring break season is officially underway. The Transportation Security Administration says the peak spring break travel period runs from March 6th through the 24th. TSA is expecting air travel passenger volume to increase by more than 5%. Arrive early and be prepared for long lines. Also, a quick reminder ahead of the summer travel season, be sure to register for your real ID by May 7th. All U.S. travelers will need a real ID to fly domestic unless they bring a passport. Layoffs have surged to levels not seen since the last two recessions. Global outplacement firm Challenger Gray and Christmas reports that job cuts jumped 245% in February, with over 170,000 layoffs. That's the highest for the month since the Great Recession 16 years ago. The federal government accounted for the bulk, cutting over 60,000 jobs across 17 agencies and over 41,000% increase from last year. The cuts are linked to Trump's push to shrink the government. The president has described the federal government as bloated and wasteful. Challenger cites DOGE-related cutbacks as the top reason, affecting over 63,000 workers, including federal employees and contractors. Washington, D.C. has been hit the hardest, losing nearly 62,000 jobs this year compared to just 60 in 2024. The unemployment rate is forecast unchanged at 4%. Okay, now to Wall Street. Stocks finished lower on Thursday today, with the Nasdaq confirming it has been in a correction since December. It was weighed down by market jitters over the current uncertainty surrounding U.S. trade policy. Now, President Donald Trump announced today that goods from Canada and Mexico, covered by the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, will be exempted for a month from the 25% tariffs imposed earlier this week. Now, the development comes just a day after Trump exempted automotive goods from the tariffs. And with that, everything on today's Business Matters. Coming up after the break, Chinese hackers at it again. The DOJ levels charges in connection with the massive cyber campaign. Our sister media was among the targets. We unpacked the money flow in this malign activity when we return.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it.
Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms. But then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Looking to refresh the style in your home? Here at Mathis Home, we can help you find exactly what you need during our spring style event. Whether you're looking for rustic farmhouse, classic, or modern and eclectic, we have all the latest looks that will leave your home feeling brand new. Whatever your style, we know that we can help you find it at the lowest price. Because not only do we want you to feel good in your home, we know that to earn your business, our prices have to be the best. So come to the spring style event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjion Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Welcome back. President Trump pausing most tariffs on Mexico and Canada for a month, but bigger tariffs are still set to hit in a few weeks. Joining us now live is NTD White House correspondent Iris Dowd. Good afternoon, Iris. What's Trump's latest actions today?
Good afternoon to you too, Don. So in a new executive action today, President Trump ordered a 1-month pause to his tariffs on both goods from Mexico and Canada that are covered by the USMCA, which is a free trade deal agreement that he personally negotiated during his first term among the 3 North American nations. And specifically, Trump says that the 1-month delay is to protect American automakers, but he also warns that across the board, a reciprocal tariff are still set to kick in on April 2nd. Watch.
April 2nd is a little bit different. That will be much more significant. But during this interim period between now and April 2nd, this makes it much more favorable for our American car manufacturers.
And meanwhile, on Wednesday, Trump just paused his auto tariffs for both Mexico and Canada. And that's after he talked to the CEOs of the big three automakers. And White House officials says that's to encourage these car makers to shift their production lines to the U.S. Meanwhile, while Trump today expanded his tariff relief, it does not mean that all goods are covered by USMCA. According to today's agreement, over 60% of the goods coming in from Canada, as well as over 50% of goods coming from Mexico, are still subject to tariffs, which are newly imposed by Trump just this week. Back to you.
And Iris, how are Mexico and Canada reacting to this?
So President Trump has been personally talking with both the leaders of Mexico and Canada over the past few days. And he says that the Mexican leader has agreed to ramp up its border security measures. And he says that she's working hard to prevent the flow of fentanyl into the U.S., which is also what the Mexican leader vowed to do today. But Trump has been using harsher words towards a Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, again accusing him of trying to use the tariffs measure to try to stay in power. But the Canadian Prime Minister, despite the pause in tariffs announced by Trump today, the Canadian Prime Minister says that his retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods will still remain in place unless the U.S. rolls back all of his tariffs. Don.
Iris, what other orders did President Trump sign today?
So also in the Oval Office today, President Trump signed into another executive order, and that is to revoke the security clearances for employees at the law firm Perkins Coie, which played a key role in commissioning the Steele dossier report during investigations into Trump's alleged connections with Russia. And President Trump, while signing that order, says that is to end the weaponization of government. Watch.
What they've done is it's just terrible. It's weaponization. You could say weaponization against a political opponent, and it should never be allowed to happen again.
And actually, just recently, President Trump also signed another executive order to end the security clearances for employees at another D.C. law firm that worked for Special Counsel Jack Smith, who led the probe into Trump's alleged 2020 election interference case. Don.
All right, Iris, thank you very much. Meanwhile, the State Department holds its first press briefing explaining how they're implementing President Trump's foreign policy agenda. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us. Jack, good afternoon. What are the highlights from the first briefing?
Well, spokeswoman Tammy Bruce definitely put the brief in briefing. She kept it at a sharp 45 minutes there, where the previous administration would go a little bit over an hour. But a lot was discussed still, especially regarding the fallout of a potential peace plan with Ukraine. Now, earlier this week, the U.S. paused intelligence sharing and aid in the form of cash and military aid to Ukraine to see if that aid was working toward a solution rather than just extending the war. Now, the U.S. has sent at least $175 billion in aid to Ukraine since the war broke out in 2022. And this pause comes after the notorious argument between President Zelensky, as well as President Trump and Vice President Vance. Here's State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce today saying that if Zelensky is serious about finding a solution, then Trump will meet with him. Watch.
And it was clear, as the president had stated publicly, that he was not ready for peace, that there was one thing that he should not do, and that was, damage the nature of what was transpiring there, because we want to help him. We want to help Ukraine. We have been the biggest supporters of Ukraine in this conflict than anyone else in the world. We have made it very clear from the start how we feel about this situation. But even after that, even that same night and continuing on, there was an open door that he wasn't ready for peace. If he becomes ready for peace, he can come back to the table. It was certainly not something that eliminated the potential to continue. But what it did do was highlight, and clearly with the follow-up message from President Zelensky, there was an awareness that, as he said, it did not go as planned, right? It was not a situation that was good or helpful, and as I'm paraphrasing here, and clearly indicated that he was ready to come back. If the president and the secretary believe that President Zelensky is serious and that we can move forward, they have stated, in fact, that we would.
Now, this comes after Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, confirmed that senior U.S. officials are arranging to hold talks next week with Ukrainian officials. And that's as today, European Union leaders meeting in Brussels on talks to support Ukraine, with France saying that it's open to extending its nuclear arsenal to its allies in Europe, and many European allies very much in favor of that. But as far as the briefing goes, Tammy Bruce also spoke about bringing an end to Hamas control in Gaza. Bruce said that as long as Hamas exists, there's no way forward, and that they are monsters destroying Gaza's lives and those in Israel. Now, these policies are being implemented under Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who he was confirmed by the Senate unanimously, bipartisanly, so just to show that he has a lot of support among both Republicans and Democrats who are elected. Now, this goal is to make his goal here are three principles: make the U.S. more safe, secure, and prosperous. Those are the guidelines that they're using here, as was reiterated by Tammy Bruce today in the statement she made in the beginning. But as another important aspect of this, and this is really key here, is Bruce is calling the Chinese regime the Chinese Communist Party rather than the People's Republic of China, and that's a change from the last administration. And this reflects a big change in tone on the U.S.-China relationship. The State Department also recently removed from its website a line that said the U.S. does not support Taiwan's independence, further expressing the U.S.-China relationship, as China does not see Taiwan as an independently operating democracy as it is. Back to you.
Okay, Jack, thank you for the report. Next, the Epoch Times has been hacked. Why? Our data reporter Kevin Hogan breaks this down and follows the money.
What we're about to reveal to you is a hacker for hire system that's been going on from 2016 until at least 2023. That's according to the Justice Department. They have charged 12 CCP-linked nationals over a years-long hacking campaign. 2 of them are actually members of the CCP, part of their intelligence and police service, and another 2 are cyber actors. Some of them have their own companies that they employ Chinese hackers in, and then 8 of them are part of this company called iSoon. That's a Chinese hacking firm, right? So this is an attack on the Epoch Times. So how does it work? I mean, the CCP, they definitely do not want the Epoch Times reporting to get out, and we'll get into that why in just a moment. But so what the Ministry of Public Security does is they hire that iSoon company to go in and try to break into the email servers of newspapers like the Epoch Times. So they use everything they can to break into cell phones, emails, all these websites and everything. They use these phishing emails that have this malware that as soon as you open it up, they can gain access to their computer. But you ask, well, why would the Epoch Times be targeted? I mean, of all the things that a bad actor could go after for hacking, critical infrastructure, bank accounts, why would you go after a newspaper's email server? Well, we have a statement from the Epoch Times CEO, which I'll show you here, and that's Janice Trey right there. She says that the Epoch Times is the media company that is most feared by the Chinese Communist Party, and the reason for that is because the truthful reporting on the human rights abuses that the CCP is committing in China. For example, the Falun Gong, a peaceful spiritual meditation group, they've been persecuted for a quarter century by the CCP, and that includes killing them for their organs for a profit. And the Epoch Times has been reporting on that critically ever since. So certainly the CCP is doing everything it can to squash that information from getting out. So how does this iSoon company actually do it? Well, this is their portal for their penetration platform. Again, they use phishing, malware. They even clone websites to try to do everything they can to coax information out of people. So that's just the DOJ's actual image that they've published here, so we can take a look at. And now, when you talk about the actual scope of this is John Molinar. He's the chairman of the Select Committee on the CCP. He says that the Chinese Communist Party is waging a full-scale cyber war against the United States and American people. And he says it's an attack on our security infrastructure and our way of life as a whole. So very, very serious. Let's follow the money here. What does iSoon charge to break into one single email server? Well, on the low end, that's $10,000. So again, very profitable, very lucrative industry. But on the high end, that jumps up to $75,000 for just one. The CCP will pay a lot of money to get access to this information. That's all in the DOJ's charging document. So this company, iSoon, it's known by the DOJ to have made over $20 million, or at least $20 million in 2021. But the company's own executives estimate that by this year, that'll jump up to $70 $75 million. So again, very lucrative. They're doing everything they can to break into email servers to get access to compromise them as a whole. And furthermore, the State Department has put out a reward for any information leading to, one, the arrest of those 2 cyber actors. That's right at $2 million. That's a lot of money. And then for any of those 8 iSoon employees and anything that's related to that company at all, a total of $10 million reward for this. And if you may remember, well, actually, we'll get to that in a sec. But now this iSoon is so widespread. I mean, it's everywhere in China. There are 43 bureaus that actually contract with them. And this is Ministry of Public Security, this is the Intelligence Service and Police Service that contract with them, and that's in 31 provinces, extremely widespread. Now, those 2 cyber actors, you remember back in 2021, there were 30,000 U.S. organizations that were compromised by that Silk Typhoon attack, and that was part of those. That's the same 2 individuals that are all involved in this indictment right now. So we're going to have to see how this plays out, and we'll be tracking this for you. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Kevin, for the report. Next, President Trump is pushing Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to clean up homeless encampments in the city. Trump yesterday pointed to areas near the State Department and the White House. The president wrote on Truth Social that if the mayor is not able to do it, quote, "we will be forced to do it for her." Trump added that we want to be proud of our great capital again. Last month, Trump criticized the high rate of crime, graffiti, and homelessness in the nation's capital city. The president also suggested the federal government take over governing D.C. The district has a limited form of self-governance under the control of Congress since 1973. Bowser has rejected the idea and said she believes the current system of governance is best. What do everyday Americans say are the biggest accomplishments of Trump's first 6 weeks in office? And what do they want to see from the president next? NTD Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to survey the people.
What stood out to you the most in President Trump's second term so far?
That he's gotten a lot done in a short amount of time, right? So many things that he promised he would do, he's already cracking down on, and the time he spends with the reporters explaining everything.
I really think he's got an impressive cabinet that he's put together. And it's a cabinet that really looks like it's built to get things done.
From his first term, to the second term, he has hit the ground running, and he has his cabinet members that he is putting in place.
The 200 special orders he's put out already, that's taken care of a lot of crap that we needed to get rid of.
Well, the border crossings are really good. That's an amazing thing, what's happening there. And then hopefully we're close to peace in not only the Middle East, but also the Ukraine-Russia war.
I think it's going a little too fast, especially with the DOJ committee letting too many people go too fast. I'm not sure if they really studied every employee's real job and if it's needed for the country.
My sister lost her job, and she's one of the best plant geneticists on the planet. She's a professor for UC Davis, and her purview falls under the USDA.
Going forward, what should be President Trump's next priority?
The biggest thing is protecting our borders.
The American people should be his priority because we're the ones that put him there.
I feel like we don't need to be buying oil from countries that are trying to kill us. So it'd be good if we drilled our own oil.
The economy, but if the Democrats will allow us to do what we need to do in the economy, I think the inflation rate will come down.
I do hope that he makes a move so people can see inflation going down.
We're farmers, and input prices are a major concern for us, as well as the commodity prices for what we're selling. And so, of course, we like to keep an eye on that. That's how we make our living.
Uniting the country, I still think that's what it comes down to. There's too much division in the country. I'm praying for the president. I'm praying for the country. I didn't vote for him, but I'm still optimistic and hopeful he could unite us.
Coming up after the break, in Brooklyn, New York, a huge falling tree almost killed 3 pedestrians. The scary moment was caught on camera. We'll bring you the story when we come back.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. So we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air condition. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowner's insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by US News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-6782. 800-360-6782.
And a moment of terror for a family walking in New York City. Security camera footage shows the moment a falling tree narrowly misses them. Ben and Shelley Kirstein were taking a stroll with a relative in Brooklyn on Saturday when they came within inches of being crushed. The video shows the three of them walking along the sidewalk when the tree comes crashing down, Shelley getting out of the way just in time. Speaking to Pix 11 News, Shelley put it down to divine intervention, saying that there is no question God saved them for a reason, a terrifying few seconds for sure. And that's it today. Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Stay with us for NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific.